Chapter 36-25. Despicable Thief. While he was running away, he still wanted to plunder our tribe's resources. Tao Yongsheng roared furiously. His entire body was burning with rage. The Grand Priest's face darkened. He gritted his teeth and cursed, "This audacious bastard. He really doesn't know what's good for him. It has always been our tribe plundering the other tribes. I didn't expect him to. This is too despicable." The few elders were also furious. They waved their divine weapons and charged over with murderous intent. However, when both parties were still 5,000 miles away, Ji Tianqing and the rest noticed them. Ji Tianqing hurriedly kept a mine into his space ring. He brought Bai Feng and the rest and flew into the Taotai tribe's camp at lightning speed. Seeing this, Tao Yongsheng and the Grand Priest's eyelids twitched. They had a bad feeling in their hearts. In the next moment, their premonition came true. Originally, the Taotai tribe's camp was very peaceful. On the barren land with a radius of 10,000 miles, there were a few hundred palaces and mansions scattered around. Thousands of people from the Taotai tribe stayed in the various palaces and mansions. They were cultivating in seclusion as usual. However, Ji Tianqing and the rest performed their divine skill with all their might. They released an earth-shattering divine skill light shadow that poured down on the camp. Boom! 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 Suddenly, the peaceful Taotai tribe's camp exploded with 5-colored divine light that shot up to the sky. There was a deafening loud noise. At least a few dozen palaces were blasted into ruins by the divine skill light shadow. Hundreds of millions of bricks and stone fragments splattered everywhere. At the same time, a few hundred people from the Taotai tribe died tragically under the bombardment of the divine skill light shadow. The earth-shattering explosion, countless people from the Taotai tribe roared in pain, and the tragic cries of those on the verge of death woke up the surrounding Taotai tribe. Suddenly, the entire camp was in an uproar and fell into chaos. Countless people from the Taotai tribe were filled with fear and confusion. They hurriedly rushed out of the palaces and mansions and flew into the sky to check the situation. It was a pity that before they could figure out what was going on, they were drowned by the divine skill light shadow. Dragon Elephant Divine Fist. Breaking Sun Sword. Great Rotating Sacred Sword. Ji Tianqing was the most valiant. He brandished his left fist and his right hand brandished his sword. In a breath's time he displayed 3 ultimate skills. Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu and Yank were not to be outdone either. They unleashed their strongest attacks and used their most destructive moves. Boom boom boom. In the next instant, another few tens of palaces were blasted into ruins by blade lights and sword shadows, and over 1,000 members of the Taotai clan were slaughtered miserably. Even those upper Divine Lord Realm Guards and lower Divine King Realm Deacons could not withstand Ji Tianqing's slaughter. Hundreds of hotshots of the Taotai clan fell from the sky like dumplings. Blood rained down from the sky. There were also several hundred weaker Taotai clansmen. They were still in the palaces and courtyards, but they had been blasted into smithereens. Tao Yongsheng, the Grand Priest, and a few other elders witnessed this scene with their own eyes. They were so angry that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets as they gritted their teeth. Although the Taotai clansmen that Ji Tianqing and the rest slaughtered did not have a true powerhouse, but those Taotai clansmen were the backbone of the Taotai clan. Their future hope. Ji Tianqing's deranged massacre made God knows how many elites and geniuses perish prematurely in the Taotai clan. One could foresee that within the next 1,000 years, the Taotai clan's power would be greatly reduced. The new generation of divine king powerhouses would be so few that it would make one's hair stand on end. To a clan, this was absolutely a heavy blow. Ah, Long Tian, this seat swears that I absolutely won't let you escape from the star-devouring grotto heaven alive. Tao Yongsheng was driven mad with rage, his voice roaring like a great bell. However, after Ji Tianqing and the rest cast spells and slaughtered the Taotai clansmen, they fled without the slightest hesitation. Swoosh! They all erupted with the fastest speed, akin to an aurora tearing across the firmament, speeding towards the south. Tao Yongsheng, the Grand Priest, and a few other elders hurriedly followed, unleashing a pursuit in a towering rage. However, when flying over the ruined campsite's airspace, Tao Yongsheng still hesitated for a bit. Seeing that there were still many clansmen lucky enough to survive in the ruins, he could not help ordering, Grand Elder, You bring the 3 elders to go and rescue the clansmen who survived. Especially those guards, elite disciples and geniuses, you must think of a way to save them. The Grand Elder was immediately stunned, falling into hesitation and weighing the pros and cons. Although he was so furious that he exploded, and very much wanted to follow the Patriarch and the Grand Priest to hunt down Ji Tianxing and the rest. But he knew that while revenge was important, rescuing the clansmen who survived was even more important. Hence, he could only nod his head and say that he complied. After that, he brought the 3 elders and stayed behind, descending into the ruined campsite at top speed, and rescuing those heavily injured clansmen. Tao Yongsheng, the Grand Priest, and Tao Yuxing swept over the campsite's airspace without stopping, chasing towards the south. As time flowed by, the distance between both parties continuously pulled closer. 4,000 miles, 3,000 miles, 2,000 miles, looking like in another 10 breaths of time, Tao Yongsheng would catch up to Ji Tianxing and the rest. And at this time, Ji Tianxing and the rest were only 10,000 miles away from the southernmost part of the star-devouring grotto heaven. Tao Yongsheng suddenly reacted and immediately frowned, a cold light flashing in his eyes. They want to escape to the exit of the star-devouring grotto heaven, and return to the dragon realm through the exit. Hearing this, the Grand Priest and Tao Yuxing were both stunned. Then the Grand Priest frowned and said, "Only us and the few elders know the secret method to open the exit. He doesn't know the method to open it, and even if he uses the technique to break it, it will take a long time. They can't escape, we can catch him." Tao Yongsheng and Tao Yuxing also thought so, and their eyes shone with a hopeful light. However, something unexpected happened. Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu and Yank, who were flying at top speed, were suddenly enveloped by a white light and disappeared into thin air. Obviously, Ji Tianxing had taken them into the Jiutian Ten Absolutes pagoda. Firstly, their speed was relatively slow, and they would be caught soon. Secondly, their mission had been completed, and there was no point in continuing to follow Ji Tianxing. Just like this, Ji Tianxing burst out with an unbelievable speed and rushed toward the exit by himself. Originally, the distance between Tao Yongsheng and him had been reduced to 800 miles. Ji Tianxing suddenly accelerated, and the distance between the two of them increased to more than 500 miles. Even so, Tao Yongsheng was not worried and continued to chase without slacking. He thought that as long as Ji Tianxing escaped to the exit and used the technique to break the divine array, he would definitely be able to catch up. At that time, he would definitely use the primal chaos primordial bell to capture and suppress Ji Tianxing as soon as possible, and not give him a chance to resist. Whoosh! After a few breaths, Ji Tianxing escaped to the southern edge of the star-devouring grotto heaven. 10 miles ahead was the exit of the star-devouring grotto heaven. It was a white light vortex that was hundreds of meters tall. Behind the white light vortex was a translucent spatial barrier. Just as he flew to the exit, Ji Tianxing waved his hands and made a hand seal to open the exit. Tao Yongsheng, the Grand Priest, and Tao Yuxing, who had rushed over, were stunned when they saw his familiar and precise movements. Chapter 36-26. D***minute, what the hell? How did that guy know our secret technique? Could it be that there's a traitor among us? Who is it? Who leaked the method to open the exit? Tao Yongsheng, the High Priest, and Tao Yuxing all looked as if they had seen a ghost. They could not believe that Ji Tianxing had actually mastered the method to open the exit. Moreover, he was extremely skilled and used only 2 breaths of time to successfully open the spatial passage. Such speed was not inferior to the High Priest and the Grand Elder at all. As a result, the 3 of them could not help but think that there might be a traitor among the elders and deacons. Someone had taught Ji Tianxing the method to open the exit. Otherwise, it did not make sense at all. At this time, they had not realized the truth of the matter. Ji Tianxing had refined Tao Wangchuan and Tao Changji's godheads, and learned the method to open the exit from their divine soul memories. Of course, it would take a few days for them to calm down and think about it carefully before they could guess the truth. Swoosh! The white light vortex opened and a pitch-black spatial passage appeared in the middle. Ji Tianxing did not hesitate and jumped into the white light vortex, and was swallowed by the endless darkness. The next moment, he left the star-devouring grotto heaven and appeared in the abyss shrouded in clouds. Whoosh! He rushed out of the abyss as fast as an aurora and sped towards the north. Immediately after, Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and Tao Yuxing, who had regained their senses, also passed through the white light vortex and left the star-devouring grotto heaven. They appeared in the pitch-black abyss. At this time, Ji Tianqing had already flown thousands of miles away. However, Tao Yongsheng had no intention of giving up. He immediately led the high priest and Tao Yuxing to chase after Ji Tianqing. Both parties flew across the sky one after the other, speeding through the sky at a speed faster than the aurora. Previously in the star-devouring grotto heaven, Ji Tianqing was carrying Bai Feng, Yang, and the others, so he could not burst out with his fastest speed. At this moment he was flying across the sky alone and raised his speed to the limit. Only then did Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and Tao Yuxing, who were chasing after him, witness his true strength and speed. It was no exaggeration to say that Ji Tianqing could travel 20 million miles in a single day when he flew at full speed. Among the three people, only Tao Yongsheng could keep up. Both the high priest and Tao Yuxing were slower and would definitely be shaken off. However, Tao Yongsheng could not chase after Ji Tianqing alone. He had to bring along the high priestess and Tao Yuxing in order to have the confidence to deal with Ji Tianqing, Bai Feng, and the others. He couldn't move as fast as he could, and he still had to take care of the high priest and Tao Yuxing. He was exhausted and helpless. After 2 hours of pursuit, Ji Tianqing had left the three of them behind by 20,000 li. At this rate, in at most 10 hours, Ji Tianqing would be 100,000 miles away from them. 100,000 miles had already exceeded the range of Tao Yongsheng and the high priest's divine senses. At that time, they would definitely be shaken off by Ji Tianqing. At the thought of this, Tao Yongsheng was filled with anxiety, gnashing his teeth in anger. "I'm not waiting for you guys. This seat will go and chase after that guy first. The two of you follow behind." Tao Yongsheng gritted his teeth and made up his mind. He wanted to speed up and chase after Ji Tianqing. But the high priest and Tao Yuxing's expressions changed, hurriedly reaching out to pull him back. "Clan head, don't be rash. Clan head, this must not happen." The high priest and Tao Yuxing were filled with worry, urging in an anxious tone, "Clan head, even if you can catch up to that bastard, you're alone while he has several helpers. If you are surrounded by them and something happens to you, our clan's losses will be too disastrous. To date, we've already lost thousands of clan members, many elites and genius disciples. If something happens to you, our clan will definitely be unable to recover from this setback and decline day by day." How could Tao Yongsheng not think of this? However, he couldn't just watch as Ji Tianqing escaped right under his nose. He could not take this lying down. Then what else can this seat do? The two of you are too slow. At this rate, we'll be shaken off very soon. Tao Yongsheng frowned fiercely and growled angrily. Tao Yuxing revealed a deep sense of shame and hurriedly blamed himself and apologized. The high priest frowned and thought for a moment. Suddenly, he had an idea. He stared at Tao Yongsheng with a burning gaze and asked in a serious tone, "Clan head, are you sure you're not going to let that brat off and must kill him?" "Nonsense." Tao Yongsheng replied in annoyance, "We've already formed a blood feud with him. There's only an outcome of life and death. If we don't kill him, how can the thousands of people of our clan die in peace? If we can't strip him of the dragon race bloodline, the golden-winged great rock and the phoenix race bloodline, wouldn't our efforts be in vain? Furthermore, now that things have developed to this stage, our Taotai clan has lost all face. We must kill him to cover up this matter." The high priest nodded slightly and said in a serious tone, "All right. Since the clan head has made up his mind, then I have an idea. It's unrealistic to want to kill him with just the three of us. Isn't he escaping towards the north? With his current speed, he'll enter the Ganyang region in at most 2 days. Coincidentally, the Chongqi clan's Nebula Grotto Heaven is in the north of the Ganyang region. We can ask the Chongqi clan to help us. With a pincer attack, we can definitely kill Long Tian." Hearing the high priest's reminder, Tao Yongsheng's eyes lit up. However, after thinking carefully, he frowned again. "Ask the Chongqi clan for help? Although our clan and the Chongqi clan have formed an alliance and are as close as brothers, our clans are also divided. Our clans appear to be united on the surface but are divided at heart. We each have our own thoughts and schemes. If I take the initiative to ask the Chongqi clan for help, they will definitely demand an exorbitant price and take the opportunity to extort us. In fact, after they know that Long Tian has the dragon race bloodline, they might even snatch it. At that time, even if we kill Long Tian, we might not be able to obtain his dragon race bloodline. Tao Yongxing's words made the high priest and Tao Yuxing frown, their expressions somewhat solemn. After a moment of silence, the high priest continued, "Clan head, since you insist on killing Long Tian, then you have to make some sacrifices. As for the Chongqi clan's conditions, you should be able to discuss it with their clan head personally. If you insist on obtaining the dragon race bloodline, then you have to make it clear in advance. If you're worried, then apart from asking the Chongqi clan for help, we can also send a message to the territorial lords. The Clear Sky Territorial Lord, the Ganyang Territorial Lord, and the territorial lords of the 2 surrounding territories can also help." Tao Yongsheng frowned and remained silent. After pondering for a long time, he nodded and agreed to the high priest's suggestion. "Forget it. Looks like this is the safest method for now. Then I'll send a message to them personally." Finished speaking, Tao Yongsheng took out one transmission jade slip after another, and sent messages to the Chongqi clan and the territorial lords. Chapter 36-27. Not long after, Tao Yongsheng received replies from various factions. After reading the replies, his expression was a little complicated. It was just as he had guessed. After the 4 domain lords received his message, they all agreed without hesitation. Especially Clear Sky Domain Lord and Ganyang Domain Lord. They agreed without even asking about the reward and conditions. After all, the star-devouring grotto heaven was in Clear Sky Domain, and Ganyang Domain was next door. These 2 domain lords were more familiar with the Taotai clan, and they had to rely on the Taotai clan and Chongqi clan to be able to sit firmly in their positions. Tao Yongsheng personally sent a message to ask for their help. How could they dare to refuse? The other 2 domain lords mentioned the reward and asked about Long Tian's basic situation, but they did not hesitate and agreed immediately, giving Tao Yongsheng face. Only the Chongqi clan was very difficult to deal with. The Chongqi clan leader did not agree to Tao Yongsheng's request, nor did he refuse directly. Instead, he patiently asked who he wanted to kill. What was that person's appearance and characteristics? What was his cultivation level? What bloodline was he from? What divine weapon did he use? What special abilities and talents did he have? Why did that person become enemies with the Taotai clan? What happened before? The Taotai clan had many experts. How could they need help? There must be something strange about this, right? In short, the Chongqi clan leader was very suspicious, and his questions were very detailed. Everything he said revealed a message. He had to pay more. Tao Yongsheng patiently explained the basic situation of Long Tian, and the things that had happened before. Of course, he skimmed over all the embarrassing and humiliating matters of the Taotai clan, so as to avoid being ridiculed by Patriarch Chongqi. As expected, the Chongqi Patriarch pondered for a long time before replying to him. He could help with this, but he proposed a huge reward and added 2 conditions that gave Tao Yongsheng a headache. First, Tao Yongsheng had to take out 300 billion worth of ore. Second, the Taotai clan had to give the Chongqi clan a star stone vein every 100 years. Then the Taotai clan had to withdraw 50% of their properties in Ganyang Domain and give them to the Chongqi clan. It was really an exorbitant demand. After Tao Yongsheng finished reading the jade slip, he was so angry that he directly crushed the jade slip into pieces. He almost cursed out loud. "Despicable and shameless bastard, why don't you just rob me?" Tao Yongsheng roared furiously. His face was distorted with anger. The high priest and Tao Yuxing were very nervous. They waited until his anger had mostly dissipated before carefully asking for the reason. When they heard the Chongqi clan leader's conditions, the 2 of them were filled with anger and cursed. "Damned beast! When my clan helped the Chongqi clan in the past, when have I ever been as ruthless as him? If he doesn't want to help, then forget it." Tao Yongsheng cursed, then took out his jade slip and sent a message back to Chongqi. "Patriarch Shueshang, our 2 clans are allies. Originally, I had high hopes and trust in you. However, I am very disappointed with the conditions you've proposed. Sorry to disturb you. Just pretend that I didn't say anything." Tao Yongsheng's reply was calm and cold. However, not long after, Shueshang, the Chongqi clan leader, actually replied to his message. Shua. The jade slip flew over from the sky and landed in front of Tao Yongsheng. He reached out to take the jade slip and sent his divine sense into it. Instantly, Shueshang's hearty laughter rang out in his mind. Ha ha ha. Brother Tao, calm down. I was just joking with you just now. Since we're brothers in an alliance, of course we have to help each other. Only then can we grow stronger and last forever. Since Brother Tao is in trouble, how can I just stand by and do nothing? How about this? I'll eliminate the second condition. I only want 300 billion worth of ores. In the future, Brother Tao will give me a star or vein every 100 years. Without a doubt, the Chongqi clan leader's harsh conditions were just to test Tao Yongsheng's bottom line. Seeing that Tao Yongsheng rejected him decisively, the Chongqi clan leader lowered the reward and conditions. Tao Yongsheng's anger dissipated by more than half. He patiently replied to the Chongqi clan leader, and the two of them began to bargain. After 3 messages, the two of them finally reached a consensus. The Taotai clan only needed to pay 300 billion worth of ores. In addition, they would give the Chongqi clan a star or vein every 200 years until they filled up 10 or veins. This result, the two clan leaders could both accept it. Huff! This damn fellow finally settled it. After reaching the deal, Tao Yongsheng heaved a sigh in relief and cursed under his breath. Although the deal was settled, there was a thorn stuck in his heart from beginning to end. No matter how he calculated, he felt that he lost out greatly. Previously, in the star-devouring grotto heaven, not only did he fail to kill Long Tian, he even let him heavily damage the Taotai clan's camp, damaging the Taotai clan's foundation. Now, in order to request the Chongqi clan to take action and help, he had to bleed heavily again. Calculating carefully, this life of Long Tian's was worth more than 3 trillion. Such a horrifying value, it was almost catching up to the son of the Dragon Emperor, right? At the thought of this, Tao Yongsheng was depressed until he wanted to vomit blood, wishing to tear Tao Wangchuan and Tao Zhangji into pieces. Two fools. How did they provoke Long Tian, and even bring him into the star-devouring grotto heaven? The origin of all of this was Tao Wangchuan and Tao Zhangji. If not for the two of them murdering for wealth, the Taotai clan would not be in such a sorry state. Right at this time, the high priest by the side opened his mouth and asked, Patriarch, you've reached an agreement with Patriarch Chongqi? Tao Yongsheng nodded his head slightly and said, the terms are already settled. The high priest nodded his head to indicate that he understood and asked, then will he personally take action? How many people is he bringing? Tao Yongsheng was stunned for a bit and said with a frown, didn't ask about this. This seat will send a message to ask. Finished talking, he took out a transmission jade slip again and sent it to Patriarch Chongqi Shueshang. This time, Shueshang only replied to him after an hour. When Tao Yongsheng saw the reply in the transmission jade slip, he was immediately unable to restrain his anger, his nose crooked from anger. Brother Tao, this seed is currently in close seclusion cultivating a divine art. I seriously can't leave and can't take action personally. However, this seat sent the left protector and 3 elders, plus the blood slaughter hall's 100 elites. That's enough, right? These were Patriarch Chongqi's original words, his tone revealing the meaning of, I'll handle it, you can rest assured. Tao Yongsheng was so angry that his face was livid. He hurriedly sent a message to Shueshang, requesting him to send more people and high-ranking divine kings. He emphasized to Shueshang that although the target to kill this time, Long Tian, was not a high-ranking divine king, he surpassed a high-ranking divine king. However, Shueshang's reply revealed a tone of indifference. Just a Dragon Clan youth who hasn't made a name for himself. Even if he has some means, how powerful can he be? Brother Tao, you also said that Long Tian is not your match. Since that's the case, my clan's left protector and 3 elders will only assist you in intercepting Long Tian. The person who really takes action to kill Long Tian is still you, Brother Tao. Could it be that you don't want to take revenge personally? Chapter 36-28. Tao Yongsheng was instantly speechless as he found it hard to refute. It was all a disaster caused by his face. When he told Shueshang about what happened earlier, explaining Ji Tianqing's situation, he didn't divulge the fact that Taotai clan had suffered heavy losses. Shueshang even asked him who was stronger between him and Long Tian. He replied without any hesitation that of course he was stronger. How could Long Tian be mentioned in the same breath as him? Rubbish. He was Taotai clan's clan leader, a 9th-stage realm god king. Did he not want his face? Other than Dragon Emperor who ruled various continents, he was known to be invincible under the God Emperor, not fearing any God King's existence. To make him admit that Long Tian was very powerful, making him helpless, that was just too embarrassing. So now it resulted in such an outcome. Shueshang didn't pay too much attention to it, and from the men he sent out, it was a little perfunctory. Unfortunately, Tao Yongsheng had already said that, so he couldn't slap his own face. Even if he was bitter and angry, he could only accept it. High priest who was by the side hurriedly consoled after understanding the situation. Patriarch, please calm down. That Long Tian is indeed nothing to be afraid of. As long as Chongqi clan's experts help to stop him, you can easily kill him alone. Tao Yongsheng's face turned black. This seat also knows this logic, but this seat just can't stand it. This seat spent such a huge price to invite Chongqi clan to help. In the end, Shueshang didn't take action personally and only sent the left guardian and 3 elders. This is just too perfunctory. High priest also frowned as he was filled with resentment and didn't know how to console Tao Yongsheng. Hence he pointed to the sky in front and changed the topic. Clan leader, we've been chasing after Long Tian for 8 hours. His speed has been maintained at its peak condition, and he has already left us in the dust by 80,000 miles. In another hour's time, he will leave our soul trace detection range. By then, if he changes his flying direction, we'll easily lose him. Tao Yongsheng waved his hand and said in an indifferent tone, no need to worry. Earlier when we exchanged blows with him, this seat had injured him. This seat intentionally used the soul-devouring flame's energy which remained in his wounds and body, so it's very hard to remove. If we lose him, this king will only need to spend a little time and effort to track the soul-devouring flame's aura and estimate his approximate location. As long as he's still in the clear sky and dry sun regions, he won't be able to escape my pursuit. Hearing his words, the high priest and Tao Yuxing heaved a sigh of relief and revealed looks of admiration. Patriarch is indeed far-sighted. Patriarch is wise. The two of them hurriedly flattered him. Tao Yongxing's mood improved, and his anger gradually dissipated. 10 hours later. The corners of Ji Tianqing's mouth curled up into a sneer as he sped through the sky like an aurora. It's been 10 hours and we've already left the star-devouring grotto heaven by 8 million kilometers. Yet they're still chasing? He was really persistent. Looks like Tao Yong's anger isn't light. He won't rest until he kills me. Unfortunately, I've already shaken all of you off by 50,000 kilometers, and even your divine senses can't detect me. So how are all of you going to pursue me? As he spoke, he suddenly changed his direction from north to northwest, while maintaining his speed. Not long after, Tao Yongsheng and the other two arrived at this place and continued to chase northward. Ji Tianqing had already flown 50,000 kilometers in the northwest direction, and the distance between the two sides would only increase. In the short term, Tao Yongsheng and the other two were destined to not be able to catch up to him. About an hour later, Ji Tianqing slowed down his flying speed and used his divine sense to observe behind him. After observing for a long time and not seeing Tao Yongsheng and the other two following, he was sure that Tao Yongsheng and the other two had lost them. Hence, he took out the Burial of Heaven sword and let the Burial of Heaven sword continue flying while he entered the sword world to handle matters. In a remote place in the sword world, he took out the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes pagoda and placed it in the belly of the mountain. He entered the divine pagoda and went to the 3rd, 4th and distorted spacetime to check on everyone's injuries. Bai Feng was on the 3rd level of the divine pagoda, staying in the endless dark and cold wasteland, silently circulating her energy to heal her injuries. Although Bai Feng's injuries were very serious, they were not life-threatening. Ji Tianqing checked, left a pile of divine pills and origin stones for her, and told her to focus on healing her injuries before leaving. Peng Fei was on the 4th level of the divine pagoda, sitting cross-legged above the endless sea. His injuries were the most miserable, and his physical body had almost been destroyed. His divine Tao foundation was also affected, and his divine power aura was very weak. Ji Tianqing personally used a secret technique to heal his injuries and poured a large amount of divine power into him. As a result, Peng Fei's injuries stabilized and did not continue to worsen. He opened his eyes and bowed to Ji Tianqing to thank him. Ji Tianqing looked at him calmly and asked, "Ever since you came out with me to explore the world, you have almost lost your life twice. Do you regret it?" Peng Fei pursed his lips and did not speak. He shook his head with a determined gaze. Ji Tianqing smiled and continued, "If you regret it, you can leave at any time. I really don't understand you. Why don't you just stay in the 9 mystical caves heaven and be a Peng disciple?" Peng Fei was stunned and asked in astonishment, "Senior, how did you know that I am a disciple of the 9 mystical caves heaven?" Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "Is it that hard to guess? The Dragon Realm has a total of 33 caves heaven, and the Astral Source continent has 9. Among these 9 caves heaven, only the 9 mystical caves heaven is the Golden Rock race's nest. The Golden Rock race's bloodline is thin, and they are not as good at reproduction as the other demon races. Thus, the Golden Rock race treasures their bloodline the most, and almost no descendants are left outside. Even if there is a Golden Rock bloodline outside, once the Golden Rock race finds out, they will think of a way to find it." Peng Fei was a little stunned. He scratched his head and asked, "Senior, you know so much about my race. Do you have some relationship with my race?" Ji Tianqing smiled and said playfully, "I don't have any relationship with the Golden Rock race, but I have a good relationship with the Dragon Kings and Dragon Emperors of the 4 seas and 5 continents. Of course, the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor of the Astral Source continent is an exception." Peng Fei was stunned. He asked, "So, you plan to leave the Astral Source continent and go to other continents?" Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "I do plan to do so, but before I leave the Astral Source continent, I want to go to a place." "Where?" Peng Fei asked instinctively. "The 9 mystical caves heaven," Ji Tianqing answered. "Ah." Peng Fei's expression changed instantly. He begged with a bitter face, "Senior, please don't send me back. Although I know that I am weak and can't help you, I will always be a burden to you." Ji Tianqing waved his hand and explained, "I am not going to the 9 mystical caves heaven to send you back. I am going to find your Golden Rock patriarch or tribe leader." "Find our patriarch or tribe leader?" Peng Fei was even more confused. "Yes." Ji Tianqing nodded and said in a low voice, "I am going to ask them for information and verify something." Book House Reading Website. Chapter 36-29. Peng Fei could not figure out why Senior Long Tian was looking for the Golden Rock Patriarch. As far as he knew, the Golden Rock Patriarch had not shown himself in the 9 mystical caves for thousands of years. For a powerhouse like the Patriarch, his children had already spread out and were independent. He no longer cared about worldly affairs. Now the Patriarch's only wish and goal was to reach the peak of the divine path and surpass the divine king realm. If Senior Long Tian asked the Patriarch about the past 1,000 years, the Patriarch would definitely not know. Unless it was to inquire about what happened 1,000 years ago. That was still possible. However, Senior Long Tian did not have any relationship with the Golden Rock race. How could he have met the Golden Rock Patriarch? Peng Fei was puzzled, but he could not figure it out. He could only suppress this thought. He remembered that he was about to return to the 9 mystical caves and could not help but mutter, "Senior, it's fine if you ask for information, but don't leave me alone after sending me back." Although he did not hate the 9 mystical caves, he did not have a good impression of them. After all, this was related to his life and origin. He had an unpleasant past. Furthermore, his status in the 9 mystical wonderland was rather awkward. He was not a disciple with mediocre talent, nor was he a direct descendant with a strong backer. They belonged to the category of rootless duckweeds that were above average. They would not be bullied, but no one was willing to care for them. This situation lasted for more than 800 years. Peng Fei felt bored and awkward, so he decided to leave the 9 mystical caves and explore the outside world. Fortunately, the deacons and elders of the Golden Rock race were not angry because of this. He was not punished. Instead, the Golden Rock race secretly asked someone to take care of him in the mortal world. The master of Mount Wuhua, his master, and the Green Lotus Domain Lord were the two divine kings who were ordered to take care of him. His master and the Green Lotus Domain Lord thought he did not know about this. In fact, he was not a fool. How could he not know? Peng Fei's heart wavered as he thought of the past. Ji Tianqing visited Baifeng and Peng Fei before returning to the distorted spacetime to visit Chao Qingyu and Yank. Now these doyens who had followed him from the God realm to the Dragon realm had all won his trust. In terms of the treatment of the cultivation environment, this was the most obvious manifestation. For example, Chao Qingyu, Yank and Lan'er could stay in the distorted spacetime for a long time and cultivate in seclusion under the blood flame sacred tree. Before this, only Yun Yao, Ji Ku, Ji Wushuang, Bai Long, Hei Long, Qianyu, and Zhen Hong were qualified to enter this place. Of course, Xue Lin, Sir God Blood Illusion, Left Emissary Jean and Blood Dragon Right Emissary were also accepted. Even though they were loyal and sincere to Ji Tianqing. However, the main reason why they could come to the distorted spacetime to cultivate was not because of this. It was because they were cultivating in Xue Lin's godly ship. Their progress was simply too slow. Speaking of which, only 3 to 4 years had passed in the outside world, and their strength had not improved much. However, everyone who cultivated in the distorted spacetime had undergone a great change and improved rapidly. Ji Tianqing felt that if this were to continue, he would be favoring one over the other and making Lin Xue, Sir God Blood Illusion and the rest disappointed. Therefore, he transferred Xue Lin and the rest into the distorted spacetime not long ago. Currently, there were already 14 Sir God and Godly King experts gathered in the distorted spacetime. There were members of the God Clan, the Human Clan, as well as the Demon Clan's Divine Dragon and Heavenly Fox. More than 10 experts were cultivating in seclusion under the Blood Flame Sacred Tree. All of them were emitting 5-colored divine light and brimming with vast and mighty divine power. The scene was indeed spectacular. Ji Tianqing took a look. Chao Qingyu and Yang's injuries were very serious. However, their lives were not in danger. They just needed to cultivate in seclusion for more than 10 years to fully recover. This result was acceptable. After all, they had loyally carried out their duties and worked so hard. Therefore, Ji Tianqing took out many healing elixirs and resources and placed them in front of the two of them. Then he left a jade slip for Yank. There was only one sentence in it. When your injuries have fully recovered, or when you have free time, help me refine and purify the mineral veins. Next, Ji Tianqing sat cross-legged under the blood flame sacred tree and started to check his injuries. He also took stock of his gains in the star-devouring cave. He circulated his power for 2 cycles and checked every corner of his body. He found a total of 9 injuries. 7 of them were new injuries. The other 2 were old injuries that he had suffered outside the Golden Source Dragon Emperor Xuanji Cave. Fortunately, these injuries were not serious and did not affect him much. Ji Tianqing took elixirs and used secret healing techniques. He healed his injuries in just 2 months. Then he started to take stock of his spoils. First, there were 2 God King Experts quintessence fragments. One belonged to the 3rd Elder Tao Rongxin. It was a 7th Heaven God King Realm quintessence fragment. It contained more than 430 divine Tao laws. The other belonged to the 7th Elder. He was the weakest at 6th Heaven God King Realm. The number of divine Tao laws in the quintessence fragment was also relatively small. There were only 390 of them. Regarding this, Ji Tianqing felt that it was a pity. It would be great if he could kill Tao Yongsheng and the High Priest. They were the 2 giants of the Taotai clan. They had at least 600 divine Tao laws. Unfortunately, he would only have the chance to realize this in the future. In addition to the 2 quintessence fragments, Ji Tianqing also had 6 huge mountains in his interspatial ring. Within each mountain there was a vein of ore. There were 5-star mineral veins and 1 heavenly red cloud gold mineral vein. These were rare treasures that were hard to find in the mortal world. They were excellent materials for refining king-grade divine artifacts. Ji Tianqing used his divine power and melted the 6 mountains. Instantly, the dirt and impurities on the 6 mountains were removed. They shrunk by half and became metal lumps the size of hills. Of course, they only looked like lumps of metal. They had a metallic luster and were shining with dazzling divine light. In reality, they were still ores. They had to be refined and purified to obtain the pure star divine gold and heavenly red cloud gold. Ji Tianqing roughly estimated that after refining and purifying these 6 hills of ores, he should be able to exchange them for 300 million pieces of divine gold. That would be worth at least 400 billion. To any upper god king, this was equivalent to his lifetime's worth of wealth. Unfortunately, to the Taotai clan who is sitting on a mountain of gold, this can only make them angry. Can't make them feel heartache. If I have the chance to go to the star-devouring grotto heaven in the future, I would be letting myself down if I don't dig up hundreds of mines. Ji Tianqing muttered in his heart. He took out the 6 hills of ores one by one and sent them to the void in front of Yank with a wave of his hand. When Yank finished healing and saw the jade slip he left behind, he would start refining and purifying. After Yank refined the star divine gold and heavenly red cloud gold, he would also have to put upgrading the sword of burial of heaven on the agenda. After all, the ones he came into contact with now were all upper god kings. The sword of burial of heaven, which was a mid-grade king-grade divine artifact, was already somewhat inadequate. Oh. Chapter 3630. After dealing with the 6 mines, Ji Tianqing looked into the interspatial ring for the last spoils of war. 2 lotus-like flowers with 9 petals the size of a washbasin. A high-grade king-level treasure, star-devouring flower. Although there were only 2 divine flowers, their value was immeasurable. In the current dragon realm, even if someone offered 100 billion divine stones for 1 flower, they might not be able to buy it. It was not that the flower was really valuable, but that it was too rare and precious. According to Ji Tianqing's knowledge, in the entire dragon realm, only the star-devouring grotto heaven and a few ancient forbidden grounds had produced star-devouring flowers. Therefore, before he went to the star-devouring grotto heaven, he was thinking about the star-devouring flower. Only the barbarians of the Taotai clan, who were not good at refining weapons or pills, would not care about the star-devouring flower. As a result, Ji Tianqing easily plucked 2 flowers while escaping. If it were those god clans in the god realm, they would have sent troops to guard the star-devouring flower long before it sprouted. Ji Tianqing held the 2 star-devouring flowers in his hands and temporarily fell into hesitation and consideration. Should I directly use the devouring divine ability to swallow and refine these 2 divine flowers? Or should I spend a lot of time and effort to refine them into the 9 revolution star rhyme pill before consuming them? Swallowing and refining directly was simple and straightforward and saved time. Although his devouring divine ability was very powerful, and could not waste the divine flower's medicinal power, doing so would only allow the divine flowers to unleash 80% of their effects. Refining the 9 revolution star rhyme pill was tedious and time-consuming, but it could allow the divine flowers to unleash 120% of their effects. Ji Tianqing calculated for a while and finally chose the latter. Forget it, the star-devouring flower is something that can only be chanced upon and not sought. It will probably be very difficult to obtain it in the future. I can't waste it recklessly. I'll just spend 2 to 3 years refining it into the 9 revolution star rhyme pill. Therefore, he began to rummage through the interspatial ring, searching for all kinds of supplementary materials and herbs needed to refine the pill. The 9 revolution star rhyme pill was a high-grade king-level divine pill. Most high-grade divine kings might not even know how to refine it. Firstly, the refining method was too mysterious and complicated. Secondly, it required too many materials. 17 types of herbs and 9 types of supplementary materials. In addition to the main ingredient, the star-devouring flower, there were a total of 27 materials to refine the 9 revolution star rhyme pill. Such a troublesome divine pill that required so many supplementary materials and herbs was rare in the alchemy world, and it had never been welcomed by alchemists. Ji Tianqing rummaged through the ring for an hour. He had almost checked all the tens of thousands of resources and miscellaneous items in the ring. In the end, he only found 13 types of medicinal herbs and 7 types of supplementary materials. I'm still short of 4 medicinal herbs and 2 supplementary materials. It's just troublesome. Ji Tianqing put away the 13 types of medicinal herbs and 7 types of supplementary materials. He got up and went to look for Yunyao Jiku and Chao Qingyu. These god kings might have the herbs and supplementary materials he needed in their personal savings and spatial rings. After all, the herbs and auxiliary materials were not too rare. Most of them were low-grade king-level materials, and only 2 were mid-grade king-level materials. With an apologetic smile, Ji Tianqing went to wake up Yun Yao, Ji Ku, and Chao Qingyu, who were still cultivating in seclusion. They were not dissatisfied with his interruption. Instead, they gave him an understanding and encouraging smile. Everyone was also carefully searching through their spatial rings. For hours later, Ji Tianqing had 2 more supplementary materials and 2 more medicinal herbs. Unfortunately, he was still short of 2 more medicinal herbs. Ji Tianqing sighed helplessly. He put away the 9 supplementary materials and the 15 medicinal herbs and muttered to himself, "It seems that refining the 9 Revolution Star Rhyme Pill can only be put aside for a while." The 9 Revolution Star Rhyme Pill was not only high-grade and precious, but it was also very effective. Not only could it heal the injuries of the God body and Godhead, but it could also increase one's strength and strengthen one's body in all aspects. Thus, Ji Tianqing would not give up. He had to refine it no matter what. He had reached the peak of the 5th level of the Divine King realm. It would be difficult for him to break through to the 6th level of the Divine King realm in a short period of time if he did not have an opportunity or a test of life and death. Therefore, the 9 Revolution Star Rhyme Pill might be his opportunity. Forget it. I'll refine the 2 Godhead fragments first before I study the heaven-punishing divine skill to increase my strength. Ji Tianqing collected his thoughts and began to refine the 2 Godhead fragments. He had done this countless times. Naturally, he was familiar with it. In just 1 month, he had refined the 2 Godhead fragments. His strength had increased again. He had taken away 15 types of divine Tao laws and refined some of Tao Rong Xian's memories. This gave him a deeper understanding of the Tao Tai tribe's current situation. At the same time, the number of divine Tao laws that he had mastered had reached 540. Next, he cultivated the heaven-punishing divine skill. Currently, he had already cultivated to the 4th level. Many years ago, he had already deduced the 4th level of the skill. In the process of cultivation, he had constantly gained new insights and experiences. He had further modified and perfected the 4th level of the skill. When the 4th level of the skill reached perfection, he could cultivate to peak 6th level Divine King realm with ease. However, he had a strong premonition that if he wanted to assault the 7th level Divine King realm and become a high-ranking Divine King, then he must deduce the 5th level of the heaven-punishing divine skill. The burial of Heaven sword was akin to a wisp of black light, akin to pitch-black lightning, streaking across above the firmament. It had already flown continuously for 3 days. Now it arrived at the northwestern border of the clear sky domain, and was about to leave the clear sky domain. Even though its speed was that tiny bit slower compared to Ji Tianqing when he flew at full speed. But it was also calm and tranquil along the way these 3 days. It did not attract anyone's attention. The way it saw it, the few powerhouses of the Tao Tai tribe had long been shaken off by Ji Tianqing. Now it should be able to leave the clear sky domain safe and sound, without any surprise or danger. But very unfortunately, a scene that it did not expect appeared. Just as it crossed over the sky above the towering mountains and precipitous ridges, leaping over the vast sea of clouds. Above the sea of clouds on the right, several streaks of dazzling divine light actually lit up, piercing over like thunder. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! There were a total of 4 streaks of divine light. All of them were multicolored and filled with divine power. Within each streak of divine light, there was a figure of a demon tribe powerhouse. Moreover, those 4 streaks of divine light chased over from the right rear. They locked onto the burial of Heaven sword with formless divine consciousness. They were clearly here to intercept it. The burial of Heaven did not recognize the divine king powerhouses within those 4 streaks of divine light. It also did not want to have any contact with them. It unleashed its full power without hesitation and accelerated towards the northwestern direction. Whoosh! Its normal flying speed was slightly slower than Ji Tianqing's. But when it sped up recklessly, its speed was actually slightly faster than Ji Tianqing's full-speed flight. It instantly transformed into a streak of pitch-black aurora, and disappeared at the end of the vast sea of clouds. Those 4 streaks of divine light that chased over were clearly stunned. But after they reacted, they seemed to have confirmed something and accelerated even more excitedly. They had no intention of giving up on intercepting the burial of Heaven's sword. Moreover, their expressions were not worried at all. They looked as if they had a card up their sleeve. While speeding up to catch up to the burial of Heaven's sword, they were also communicating with each other through divine consciousness. Our target should be in that sword. That's right. When clan leader Tao sent a message to this king, he mentioned that kid's description and appearance, as well as the weapon he used. It was a pitch-black divine sword. That divine sword is quite alert. The moment it saw us appear, it sped up and ran away without saying anything. Run away? Can it run away? Clan leader Tao's inescapable net has long been spread out. Chapter 36-31. Whoosh! The burial of Heaven cut through the sky like a bolt of black lightning. It was so fast that it couldn't be seen with the naked eye. It maintained a high level of vigilance. As it guarded its surroundings, it stared at the sky in front of it. Below is the border of Clear Sky region. After crossing this majestic mountain range, I will be able to leave Clear Sky region and enter Ganyang region. The 4 divine kings just now weren't experts from Taotai clan. They should be helpers that Tao Yongsheng invited. In the world within the sword, Ji Tianqing, who was awakened by the burial of Heaven, was standing in the sky and muttering to himself. He used the burial of Heaven's perspective to observe the world outside the sword and analyze the current situation. I didn't expect Tao Yongsheng to be so ruthless and insist on killing everyone. Since he invited helpers, I'm afraid he has forces not only in Clear Sky region but also in Ganyang region? Ji Tianqing didn't need to guess to know that Taotai clan had occupied Clear Sky region for tens of thousands of years. The surrounding regions must have been infiltrated by Taotai clan. Not to mention that the surrounding regions were controlled by Taotai clan. At least there were forces of Taotai clan lurking in them. Even the leaders of a few regions and other top forces had to give face to Taotai clan. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing was 70 to 80% sure that there was an ambush in Ganyang region ahead. However, he thought of a very important question. I've already shaken off Tao Yongsheng and the high priest. They should be thousands of miles away now, right? Moreover, I didn't travel personally and didn't leave any divine power aura in the world. What method did he use to sense that I escaped in this direction and accurately calculate the time I would take to reach the border? Ji Tianqing frowned as he pondered. He vaguely felt that this was a big problem. If he didn't solve it as soon as possible, it would be very difficult for him to escape the pursuit of Taotai clan. Unfortunately, he paid the most attention to the cultivation of sword doctrine in his previous life, followed by formation doctrine, followed by alchemy and weapon refinement. As for tracking and deduction doctrine, he rarely dabbled in them. He could only be considered a beginner and not proficient enough. He deeply suspected that Tao Yongsheng might have mastered some tracking and deduction doctrine to be able to calculate the direction and progress of his escape. Otherwise, this matter would be hard to explain. He decided to consult Bai Feng after this matter was over. After all, Bai Feng also mastered a similar divine secret skill, and was proficient in tracking and deduction doctrine. Back when he was on the boundless heaven continent of the divine realm, those divine envoys had used Bai Feng in order to accurately pinpoint his location, and send a large number of troops to intercept and kill him. And now Tao Yongsheng was similar to him. There must be some similarities between them. Just as Ji Tianqing was pondering, the buried heaven sword had already crossed the towering mountain range and left the Clear Sky territory. The sky in front of him was still a vast sea of clouds, and the sky was blue. However, the earth had changed. Of heaven of heaven. Of heaven of heaven of heaven. Of. At this moment, an even greater danger appeared. Teed of heavens, of God of. Swish. Swish. In the blink of an eye, 18 beams of God of light shot into the sky and reached the top of the sea of clouds. They were 18 demon clan divine lords in blood-red armor. They were murderous. They looked like jackals and wolves. Their bodies were like tigers and leopards. They had a pair of wide wings on their backs. They were obviously not from the Taotai clan. They flew above the sea of clouds and quickly spread out. They formed an arc of defense in the sky. The 18 high-level divine lords all gripped their weapons tightly as they stared intently at the pitch-black divine sword flying towards them. The distance between the two parties was getting closer. 10,000 miles, 9,000 miles. 8,000 miles, 7,000 miles. Ji Tianqing carefully observed the 18 sanguine armor divine lords through the heaven's barrier sword's perspective. After looking at it for a while, he suddenly frowned and came to a realization. It's the Chongqi clan. Look at their attire. Could they be the elites of the Chongqi clan's blood massacre hall? 1,000 years ago, Ji Tianqing had met the Chongqi clan when he was wandering in the Dragon Realm. Of course, it wasn't a pleasant thing. The Chongqi clan and the Taotai clan were the vicious ones among the 7 noble clans of the Demon Clan. They were not as good as the other 5 in terms of character and style. After all, these 2 clans were considered outliers among the orthodox demon clans. Strictly speaking, they should be called ferocious beasts. Before the ancient times, when the dragon, phoenix, and Qilin first established the Dragon Realm, the Chongqi clan and the Taotai clan were ferocious beasts. Countless demon clans avoided them. One liked to kill and pillage. The other liked to devour living beings and plunder resources. Therefore, the Chongqi clan and the Taotai clan were very powerful. No demon clans dared to provoke them. Fortunately, the dragon, phoenix, and Qilin clans were all gods. They had many powerful overlords. The almighty experts of the dragon and phoenix races had made their moves, killing countless magnates of the Chongqi and Taotai races. That was how they managed to suppress the arrogance of the 2 races, making the other races of the dragon world applaud in joy. After the Age of Chaos ended, order and rules were established in the Dragon Realm. All the clans began to live in peace. The Chongqi and Taotai clans were hated, feared, and ostracized by other demon clans. It seemed that they could not survive in the Dragon Realm. Therefore, the ancestors of the 2 clans went to hug the Dragon clan's thighs. In the process of the Dragon clan pacifying the world and unifying all the demon clans, the Chongqi and Taotai clans also made a lot of contributions. In order to appease the 2 clans, the Dragon clan included them in the 7 noble clans of the Demon Clan. They could continue to live and reproduce in the Dragon Realm. The descendants of the Chongqi and Taotai clans were smart. In the following tens of thousands of years, they had been well behaved and did not dare to cause trouble in the world. Even if they did commit crimes, they did it on a small scale. They did not dare to alarm the dragon emperors. At the same time, they were very cautious. They were very good at covering up the truth, cleaning up after themselves, and hiding information. These were all ancient legends. Ji Tianqing had heard of them before. Therefore, he did not have a good impression of the Chongqi and Taotai clans. There was another point. These 2 clans were not only brothers in distress, but they also secretly formed an alliance to advance and retreat together. The star-devouring grotto heaven that the Taotai clan occupied was in the clear sky territory. Coincidentally, the blessed grotto heaven that the Chongqi clan occupied was in the Ganyang territory next door. Although there would be some friction between the 2 clans occasionally, most of the time, especially when they were doing bad things, they were still quite united. Damn it! I actually neglected this matter. I should have known that the Chongqi clan is in the Ganyang territory. Ji Tianqing frowned. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and his expression was serious. Of course, if he wanted to leave the clear sky territory and go to the Golden Rock clan's 9 mystical grotto heaven, the Ganyang territory was a place he had to pass through. Could not be helped. The 9 mystical grotto heaven was at the northwest edge of the Star Source continent, right next to the endless divine ocean. He could not go around 2 or 3 territories just to avoid the Chongqi clan, right? What was done could not be undone. It was useless to say anything. He only wanted to know who else the Chongqi clan sent besides the 18 elites of the Bloodslaughter Hall. Wonderful book house. Chapter 36-32. The Hall of Bloodslaughter is here. Black sword ahead, stop. When the burial of heaven was still 3,000 miles away from the Hall of Bloodslaughter elites, the 18 blood armor divine lords shouted in unison. Their cold and austere voices were truly awe-inspiring. Unfortunately, it was of no use. It could not temporarily increase their strength, nor could it slow down the burial of heaven. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh! On the contrary, the burial of heaven sped up. It was like a bolt of black lightning, stabbing straight at one of the blood armor divine lords. The burial of heaven was very fast. Only a high god king could compare to it. As for these high divine lord realm bloodslaughter hall elites, They were basically unable to clearly see the trajectory of the heaven-burying sword. All they could do was shout, "Be careful!" and counterattack with their weapons. Of course, it was all in vain. Bam! The burial of heaven easily pierced through the forehead of the first Hall of Blood Slaughter elite, instantly shattering his godhead and causing a spray of blood. Then the burial of heaven pierced through his head. It streaked across the sky like a bolt of black lightning, accurately stabbing into the second Hall of Blood Slaughter elite. It still hit him in the forehead, pierced his brain and shattered his godhead. It was an instant kill. The burial of heaven pierced through the back of the second person's head and attacked the third Hall of Blood Slaughter elite. The same scene played out once more. Then the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. Muffled sounds rang out one after another, accompanied by streaks of blood blooming in the sky. The Heaven Burier sword was like a death curse, instantly taking the lives of 9 elites of the Hall of Bloody Slaughter. All of them were killed in one strike as fast as the aurora. The 9 Blood Slaughter Hall elites who were instantly killed all had huge bloody holes in their foreheads, but their corpses were still in good condition. Then they fell from the sky at high speed. If it were any other time, these High Divine Lord Realm Blood Slaughter Hall elites were all powerhouses whose name shook a region in the Ganyang region. No matter which divine nation they were in, they would be respected figures like divine generals, marshals, and imperial preceptors. However, under burial of Heaven's sword, he didn't even have the chance to escape and was instantly killed. The other 9 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall were lucky enough to survive because they were relatively far away. After all, the 18 elites had spread out and formed a long line of defense. No matter how fast the burial of Heaven's sword was, it still took a breath's time to kill 9 elites in a row. Witnessing this scene with their own eyes, the 9 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall who were scared out of their wits no longer dared to brandish their weapons and attack. Naturally, he retreated with all his might, bursting forth with his fastest speed and escaping without a trace. The sword of burial of heaven immediately gave chase and followed them to the north. Swish! In the blink of an eye, the sword of burial of heaven caught up with 3 more Bloodbath Hall elites and killed them instantly. However, just as it was about to chase after the other 6 elites, several beams of divine light suddenly attacked from the front. Those were divine abilities unleashed by godly king experts. They were extremely powerful. Swish! 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 There were ice blades and frost swords that blotted out the sky, divine flames that transformed into a rain of arrows and giant blades, as well as mountain-sized phantoms of ferocious beasts and various lightning bolts. Ji Tianqing, who was in the sword world, instantly determined that these were divine abilities unleashed by 4 high godly kings. They finally appeared? Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and muttered to himself. At the same time, he appeared in the sky out of thin air and put away the sword of burial of heaven. With a swish he disappeared. It was as if he had never appeared. This world still had his aura, but they couldn't find any trace of him even after searching for hundreds of thousands of miles. Rumble! Boom! 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 The sky-blotting ice blades and frost swords, the rain of fire arrows, the giant blades, and the other spells all missed their target and crashed into the heaven and earth. Along with the earth-shaking and heaven-shaking loud noises, the grassland within a radius of 30,000 miles was blasted into ruins. The ground cracked, and the ruins within 30,000 miles were all scorched earth. There were ravines and deep pits everywhere. Endless dust and flames surged up and covered the sky, causing the place to be in chaos. A few more pitch-black cracks appeared in the sky, and turbulent void storms flashed past. Such a terrifying sound made the few godly kings in the sky from the south tremble with fear. They hadn't reached the battlefield yet, but they were secretly communicating with each other and exclaiming, "This is the technique of a high godly king? It's really terrifying. It must be the elders and guardians of the Cheongqi tribe. That kid is dead for sure." Nonsense. When those high godly kings attacked together, even tens of thousands of miles were destroyed, let alone that kid from the dragon clan. The Cheongqi tribe has always been violent, and they are harder to get along with than the Taotai tribe. Later you have to watch your words. Don't anger the Cheongqi tribe's experts. Understood, understood. Thank you for the reminder, Region Master Ganyang. As they spoke, The 4 godly kings had already passed through the smoke-filled sky and arrived at the scene of the incident. At this moment they saw 4 godly king experts 10,000 miles away in the sky. They were searching around with gloomy expressions. The 4 godly kings were all from the Cheongchi tribe. They all looked like wolves, tigers and leopards with blood-red wings on their backs. The person in the lead was extremely powerful. His aura was majestic, and his divine might was vast. He was an old man with purple hair. He wore dark blue armor and held a soul slasher that was more than 3 feet long in his right hand. The other 3 Cheongchi tribe's godly kings were 2 old men and a middle-aged man. They all wore purple divine armor. In comparison, they were slightly weaker. Region Master Ganyang was the most familiar with the Cheongchi tribe. He hurriedly introduced them to Fersky through voice transmission. That's the left guardian of the Cheongchi tribe. There are also the 6th, 7th and 8th elders. The left guardian is an 8th stage high godly king. The 6th and 7th elders are 7th stage godly kings. Only the 8th elder is younger. He's 6th stage godly king. Hearing Domain Master Ganyang's introduction, Domain Master Ching Kong felt more confident in her heart and secretly thanked him. Then, the 4 of them hurriedly flew over and greeted the left guardian and the others. Greetings to the left guardian and the various elders. The 4 region masters and deputy region masters were very humble. Their expressions and tone were very respectful. The left guardian turned a deaf ear to them and even ignored them. He closed his eyes and executed his divine ability to search for the target's whereabouts. The 6th elder was afraid that the 4 of them would feel awkward. He waved his hand and said, "Everyone, there's no need to be so courteous. Let's get down to business first." The 4 region masters and deputy region masters were stunned and revealed a puzzled expression. Region Master Ganyang couldn't help but ask, "6th elder, you guys attacked earlier. Didn't you kill that kid?" The 6th elder frowned and said angrily, "That kid didn't show up at all. Now even that black sword has disappeared." The 4 region masters were speechless. Their relaxed mood was lifted up again. Seeing their strange expressions, the 6th elder also felt awkward. He was afraid that he would tarnish the Cheongchi tribe's reputation and be looked down upon. Therefore, he added a few more words to explain. "We attacked just to save the 6 elites of the blood slaughter hall. We wanted to stop the black sword and force that kid to show up. We wanted to confirm the target before attacking. Who would have thought that he would disappear into thin air?" Chapter 36-33. The 6th elder was only explaining for the sake of the Cheongchi tribe's reputation. Unfortunately, it would have been better if he did not explain. His explanation embarrassed the Cheongchi tribe even more. Moreover, the left protector had always been a man of few words. He was cold and emotionless. He immediately opened his eyes and glared at the 6th elder with a piercing gaze. The 6th elder trembled in fear. He immediately shut his mouth and shifted his gaze elsewhere. The 4 region leaders were not fools. When they understood the truth, they also knew that the Cheongchi tribe had been embarrassed. The left protector was burning with rage. Therefore, they spread out and used their powers to search for Ji Tianxing. They also said some things to ease the awkwardness. "That damned little bastard." Just as clan leader Tao said, "He is extremely cunning." Yes, we underestimated him. That's why he hid. Ha ha ha. That brat is still afraid of us. He doesn't dare to fight us head-on. That's why he is a coward. Everyone, let's work together and find that brat as soon as possible. We must tear him into pieces. On the surface, it sounded like they were discussing battle tactics. However, in reality, they were helping the 4 Cheongchi tribe to ease the awkwardness. This was effective. The left protector's gloomy expression eased. He closed his eyes and continued searching. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Afterwards, the 8 god kings spread out and carefully searched every inch of space within a radius of 100,000 kilometers. It wasn't just the sky and the earth that they searched. They even used spatial magics to search the 3 inner and outer dimensions of the Starry River. Unfortunately, after searching for a few minutes, they still did not find anything. They could faintly sense that there was a foreign divine power aura left in the air. It should be Long Tian's. However, no matter what they did, they could not find him. Obviously, Ji Tianqing had used the same trick again. He used the armillary heaven secret technique and merged with the 200,000 miles of space. In other words, he was the 200,000 miles of space. This space was him. The 8 godly kings were right in front of him, but no one could find him. This should be the most advanced concealment technique, right? With Ji Tianqing's current strength, coupled with his profound attainments in the muddy heaven secret technique, it was likely that only peak divine kings and God Emperor would be able to find clues. These 8 divine king powerhouses could not guess the answer even if they racked their brains. However, blindly hiding and evading was not Ji Tianqing's goal. The reason he concealed himself was because he still wasn't sure exactly how many God King experts were trying to kill him. What were the identities of these God King powerhouses? What were their strengths? Now half an hour had passed. He eavesdropped on the conversation between the God Kings and roughly figured out the identities of the 8 God Kings. At the same time, he also clearly saw through the 8 divine kings' strength realms. He, who was the embodiment of heaven and earth, pondered silently in his mind. Only 4 domain lords, vice domain lords, and 4 Chongqi race godly kings? Are there no other God Kings lying in ambush here? He had already transformed into a world of 200,000 kilometers. Naturally, he could clearly sense that there were only these 8 God Kings within 200,000 kilometers. In addition, there were 6 Blood Slaughter Hall elites. They were all ant-like characters and were selectively ignored by him. If there were 2 9th-degree realm God Kings, perhaps I would have to put in some effort to kill some of them and then find a way to escape. Since there's only this little power, then I'll kindly accept it. Haha. After grasping the almost perfect devouring divine ability, these 8 God Kings were no different from nourishment and divine power in Ji Tianqing's eyes. Very quickly, he began his silent hunting operation. The first person he targeted was the Vice Domain Lord of Ganyang region. This fellow was a middle-level God King with only the strength of a 5th-level God King. He was at the east of the battlefield, scouting the surrounding 30,000 kilometers alone. The closest people to him, Ganyang region Lord and Chongqi race's 8th Elder, were 30,000 kilometers away. With a thought, Ji Tianqing appeared behind him out of thin air. The distance was less than 10,000 feet. He was concentrating on releasing his divine sense with all his might to scout the alternate space around him. Ji Tianqing's sudden appearance brought about a very weak and almost imperceptible spatial fluctuation. Because the distance was too close, he still sensed the abnormality and subconsciously turned around to swing his sword. Unfortunately, he was still one step too slow. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing had already raised the sword of burial of heaven and pierced out a cold golden light. Then it disappeared and returned to heaven and earth. He was very confident in this sword. This was one of his Sword Dao divine abilities, Daylight Sword. The Vice Domain Lord of Ganyang region only saw a sesame-sized cold light expand thousands of times in front of him. In the next moment, he was swallowed by the sword light that was as dazzling as the sun. Bang! In the deafening loud noise, the Daylight Sword, which was like a scorching sun and a shooting star, smashed the Vice Domain Lord of Ganyang region into pieces. Countless fragments of divine light burst out. He was like ice and snow under the scorching sun. His divine body collapsed and quickly melted away. Only the toughest divine spark was not melted by the ice and snow. It was blasted into more than 20 pieces and fell from the sky. The soft armor he wore, the divine sword he held, and the specially made robe were all shattered and twisted. Countless fragments fell from the sky. Only the interspatial ring was the least damaged. It was still intact and fell from the sky. Before the fragments fell from the sky, the Vice Domain Lord of Ganyang region and the 8th Elder of the Chongqi tribe 30,000 miles away sensed something unusual and turned their heads to look at the scene of the incident. When they saw the Vice Domain Lord of Ganyang region explode and shatter into pieces, their eyes widened and their faces were filled with shock. Damn bastard. How dare he launch a sneak attack? And he killed him in one move? Even if he was slightly weaker, he was still a 5th-level divine king. How could he be killed in one move before he could warn or escape? These thoughts flashed through their minds at the same time. They were both very shocked. In the next moment, the 2 divine kings realized what had happened. They immediately felt scared and became very vigilant. Since that kid had launched a sneak attack and killed a divine king, it was very likely that one of them would be next. Almost at the same time when the two of them had this thought, behind the eighth elder, a figure silently appeared. He was wearing a white robe and was tall and sturdy. There was a dragon horn on his forehead and golden dragon scales on the surface of his body. There was no doubt that it was Ji Tianxing. The eighth elder was only a god king in the 6th degree realm. In terms of strength and realm, he was slightly higher than Ji Tianxing. But in terms of combat power, even 10 of him would not be enough to kill Ji Tianxing. Swoosh! Ji Tianxing appeared in a flash and stabbed with his sword again. He quickly disappeared and returned to heaven and earth. He was very confident in this sword, and did not give the eighth elder a chance to counterattack or dodge. The reason why he appeared for a moment and hid in heaven and earth after stabbing with his sword was that he did not want to expose more information and let the other divine kings see through him. Chapter 36-34. Although the eighth elder was very vigilant and noticed the space ripple behind him in time, he instantly realized that Long Tian had attacked him. At this moment, his nerves were stretched to the limit, and his divine power was also unleashed to the maximum. Without any hesitation, he immediately used space diversion to move 1,000 miles to avoid Long Tian's attack. However, when he used space diversion, he realized that the surrounding space had been sealed. It was sealed off by the 30-meter-long sword light that was so condensed that it seemed to be solid. After all, the sword ray contained more than 200 divine Tao laws and released terrifying sword energy, pressure, and space divine power. It's over. When the eighth elder failed to teleport, this word flashed through his mind, and his eyes were filled with despair. Even if he swung his sword in time, unleashed all his power, and used his divine power to counterattack, it was already too late. The failure of teleportation delayed him by 1/3 of an instant, which determined his death. It couldn't be helped. The outcome of a battle between godly king experts was usually decided in an instant. The eighth elder was still in the posture of swinging his sword, and his divine sword was emitting a 300-meter-long sword ray. Boom! Unfortunately, before his divine sword could swing, the 30-meter-long golden sword ray pierced his head. The golden sword light did not seem to be huge, nor did it have a heaven-shaking might. However, it was indestructible and could destroy everything. Boom! Crack! The eighth elder's protective divine light collapsed in an instant, and his head exploded in an instant, turning into fragments and blood that scattered in the sky. Of course, his godhead was also shattered into pieces by the golden sword and scattered from the sky. The eighth elder died just like that. He was also killed in one hit. The headless corpse fell from the sky, spraying divine blood. At this moment, the Deputy Region Master of Ganyang Region's godhead fragments, armor, divine artifact fragments, and his interspatial ring fell to the ground. A faint fluctuation flashed through the seemingly ruined and scorched earth. The godhead fragments and interspatial ring that fell into the ruins were swallowed by the earth and disappeared. The next moment, these items all went into Ji Tianxing's interspatial ring. The Region Master of Ganyang Region witnessed the Deputy Region Master and the eighth elder being killed in one hit. He was scared out of his wits and his face turned ashen. The Deputy Region Master's strength was lower than his, so it was fine that he was killed by Long Tian in one move. However, the eighth elder's strength was similar to his, so he couldn't escape the fate of being killed in one move. Didn't this mean that if Long Tian had made a move against him earlier, he would be the one to perish now? The most terrifying thing was that Long Tian had launched 2 sneak attacks in a flash. Until now, Governor Ganyang could only see Long Tian's figure and a rough outline of his face. He couldn't even see Long Tian's face and expression clearly, not to mention the information about Long Tian's strength, realm, and the way he attacked. Terrifying. It was too terrifying. We all underestimated him. No wonder he would be hunted down by the Taotai clan, and even Patriarch Tao couldn't do anything to him. I can't get involved in this mess anymore. Otherwise, I won't be able to keep my life. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Protectorate Master Ganyang fled toward the north without looking back. He unleashed all of his divine power and raised his speed to the limit. After 2 godly kings were killed by Ji Tianxing in a row, the 4 godly kings within 70,000 miles all sensed that something was wrong. The 6th elder and 7th elder of the Cheongqi clan, as well as the region master and deputy region master of the Clear Sky domain, all used their divine senses to investigate the general situation. Although they didn't witness the death of the 2 godly kings with their own eyes, they knew that something had happened. Long Tian, who was hiding in the dark, launched a sneak attack and killed 2 godly kings in a row. Immediately, the 4 godly kings were abnormally vigilant, and their hearts were in their mouths. They immediately rushed toward the scene of the incident and spontaneously gathered together. Everyone had the same thought. It was easy to be ambushed if they were alone, so it was safer to gather together. Of course, the 6th elder and 7th elder didn't forget to send a message to the left protector while they were flying. The left protector was the strongest and the most confident. He had already flown 100,000 miles away to expand the search area. Just as the 4 elders were frantically rushing, their divine senses detected that Protectorate Master Gonyang, who was fleeing for his life, was also in a tragedy. Swoosh! Right in front of him, a spatial fluctuation flashed, and a figure appeared out of thin air. White robe, black hair, handsome and heroic, shining with golden light, sacred and dignified. If it were any other day, this dragon youth would be worthy of such an evaluation. But at this moment, in Protectorate Master Gonyang's eyes, this guy was a ferocious and terrifying demon. Long Tian actually didn't launch a sneak attack from behind. Instead, he appeared in front of him openly and waved his sword to kill him. This undoubtedly showed that Long Tian was very strong and had enough confidence to quickly finish him off. But Protectorate Master Gonyang had long been terrified. The moment he saw Ji Tianxing appear, he didn't hesitate to adjust his direction and teleport to the left to escape. What made everyone even more speechless was that while he was teleporting to escape, he didn't forget to shout, "Sir, please spare my life. We have no enmity between us. I won't be your enemy anymore. I'll retreat now." But it was a pity. Before Protectorate Master Gonyang could finish his words, his teleportation was interrupted. That's right. It was his teleportation that was interrupted. At the same time he used his teleportation ability, Ji Tianxing's left hand grabbed at him and clenched hard. Suddenly, the space laws descended and sealed the space within 1,000 miles. Moreover, terrifying space divine power erupted, crushing and shattering the space within 1,000 miles. Kacha kacha! With a crisp cracking sound, the space within 1,000 miles completely collapsed and became chaotic. Protectorate Master Gonyang's teleportation was forcibly interrupted, and he immediately suffered a backlash. His face was pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The divine power in his body was chaotic, and his mind was also affected. His consciousness was a little blurry, and his heart was filled with horror and fear. It's too terrifying. He actually used the space laws to crush the space within 1,000 miles? I've already begged for mercy, but he still wants to kill me? Governor Gonyang knew very well that only 8th or 9th Heaven Realm Upper Divine Kings could cultivate the law of space to such a level and possess such terrifying divine power to crush the space forcefully. Unfortunately, he just wanted to do the Taotai clan a favor and cozy up to them, but he encountered such a terrifying guy. He was so unlucky. If he had known that the treacherous brat that Tao Yongxing said was actually such a terrifying big shot, he would not have participated in this matter even if he was beaten to death. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Swoosh! Ji Tianxing raised his right hand, and the sword of burial of heaven lit up with golden light again. He slashed at Protectorate Master Gonyang across the air. Bam! Another muffled explosion resounded through the sky. Protectorate Master Gonyang used the last of his strength to condense a divine light shield and raise the divine saber above his head to block, but it was still cut in half by the giant sword. Divine light splashed and blood splattered. The 2 halves of the corpse fell from the sky, and more than 20 pieces of divine spark fragments fluttered like butterflies. Ji Tianxing's figure disappeared again and merged with heaven and earth. Now he had a deeper understanding of the Armillary Sphere secret technique. Not only did he use it as the strongest defense and concealment technique, but he also used it for assassination and teleportation. Chapter 36-35. 3 godly kings were killed in a row, all in one move. The 4 godly kings who rushed over to help all witness the process of Domain Lord Gonyang's death with their consciousness. While they were shocked by Long Tian's strength and methods, they also understood one thing. Long Tian was ruthless. Even if Domain Lord Gonyang admitted defeat and fled, even if he gave up his dignity and begged for mercy, he still couldn't escape death. This meant that he would not let go of anyone who participated in this assassination plan and attempted to kill Long Tian. The pressure on the 4 godly kings immediately increased. They felt a chill run down their backs, and their eyes became extremely solemn. It seems that today will be the end of a fight to the death. There's no possibility of reconciliation. That kid disappeared again. I think I know what his invisibility is all about. Uh-oh. Tell me, how did he do it? The 4 godly kings quickly gathered and rushed to the place where Domain Lord Gonyang was killed when they were thousands of miles away. Along the way, the godly kings communicated with each other through voice transmission. Cheongchi clan's 7th elder's words piqued the interest of 6th elder, Clear Sky Domain Lord, and Deputy Domain Lord. They were full of anticipation. 7th elder frowned and thought for a moment. Then he said to everyone in a low and cautious voice, "We searched everywhere within 100,000 miles and even the alternate dimensions, but we couldn't find him. However, his aura is everywhere." What does this mean? It means that he's in this world, but he's in a different way. That's why we can't find him. Clearsky Domain Master was a very qualified supporting actor. She hurriedly asked 7th elder, "In what way does he exist?" 7th elder pointed at the ground under his feet and said meaningfully, "We searched the sky, the earth, and the alternate dimensions, but we missed one thing. Perhaps the land within a radius of 100,000 miles was transformed by him?" His words awakened the dreamer. The other 3 were shocked, and then showed complicated expressions. 6th elder didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He muttered with a stifled expression, "Even if he used Earth-type abilities, it's very difficult to do that, right? Moreover, the battle just now destroyed everything within a radius of 20 to 30,000 miles. If he really transformed into the Earth, wouldn't he have been seriously injured?" The Clear Sky Territory Master revealed a look of sudden realization and nodded repeatedly. 7th elder is wise. This is very likely the truth. The position of the Deputy Region Master was slightly lower, so he was not in a position to play the supporting role. He did not have the guts to question him, so he could only reveal a thoughtful expression. The 7th elder's face was expressionless, but his eyes were firm as he said, "Although this conjecture sounds a little ridiculous, this is the only answer. As for the specifics, the truth will be revealed once the left protector catches that brat." As the 4 of them talked, they had already arrived at the place where Protector Gonyang was killed. Unfortunately, Ji Tianxing had long disappeared. Domain Lord Gonyang's Godhead fragment and spatial ring had long since fallen to the ground and been devoured by the earth. The 4 divine kings stopped in the sky and stood back to back. They formed a battle formation and vigilantly watched their surroundings. "That brat is hiding again. We can't split up. We must maintain our formation and prevent him from launching another sneak attack." That's right. Although we can't prove that the brat has turned into the earth, it is true that he appears and disappears unpredictably. We must guard against him strictly. Everyone, please wait patiently. I have already sent a message to the left protector. He will soon join us. When that time comes, the 4 divine kings looked as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Their nerves were tense and their postures were very vigilant. They probably felt that this was a little funny and humiliating. Therefore, the 2 elders and the Clear Sky Territory Master said some self-comforting and self-justifying words. After all, they were all honorable upper divine kings and region masters. They had always been high and mighty, reserved and arrogant. Now that they were scared to this extent by Ji Tianxing, it was really embarrassing. However, before the 6th elder could finish speaking, a dazzling divine light suddenly lit up 70 to 80,000 miles away. A pillar of light shot up into the sky. Everyone's heartstrings had been stretched taut. They were suddenly a little stunned by this sudden change. "Over there. What's going on?" the 7th elder asked subconsciously, looking a little confused. The Clear Sky Territory Master frowned and said in a low voice with an ugly expression, "It seems that someone is fighting?" He could only vaguely see the divine light shining in the sky. He wanted to use his divine sense to investigate, but it was beyond the range of his divine sense. The Deputy Region Master simply shut his mouth. He was the weakest and had no right to speak. The sixth elder suddenly thought of something and his expression changed drastically. He let out a cry of surprise. "Oh my God! That damned bastard actually went to sneak attack the left protector." As soon as he said this, the other three were dumbfounded. What? That guy was here just now. In the blink of an eye, he ran 70 to 80,000 miles away? How is this possible? Even if it's teleportation, it can't be so fast, right? Even if there is such a fast teleportation, there must be divine light and spatial fluctuations. Is that guy crazy? The left protector is an 8th-stage upper divine king. How dare he sneak attack him? Although the 4 divine kings had listed Ji Tianqing as the most dangerous enemy and overestimated his strength, but he suddenly appeared 70,000 miles away and attacked the left protector. It was hard to believe and they were filled with shock. After being stunned for a moment, the 6th elder calmed down and shouted with a gloomy face, "Don't just stand there. Let's go and help the left protector to kill that guy." This suggestion received the support of the 3 divine kings. The 4 of them hurried towards the northwest to help the left protector as fast as they could. In fact, the 6th elder's guess was completely correct. After Ji Tianqing killed 3 divine kings consecutively, of course he would continue to sneak attack the remaining 5 divine kings. However, the 6th elder, the 7th elder, the Clear Sky Region Master and the Deputy Region Master were very shameless and gathered together. The 4 of them formed a battle formation, as if they were facing a great enemy. This gave Ji Tianqing a headache. If he fought the 4 of them head-on, he could use all kinds of remarkable skills and trump cards to kill all 4 of them. But in that case, he would expose himself and leak more information. Moreover, it would delay time. Therefore, he decisively changed his target and locked onto the lone divine king 80,000 miles away in the northwest. The left protector of the Chongqi clan. This was an 8th-stage upper divine king, who had cultivated for over 20,000 years. He was a veteran divine king with profound skills, so he was very confident and dared to search around alone. He was not worried about his own safety at all. He was even worried that he could not find Long Tian and could not wait for Long Tian to assassinate him. But in Ji Tianqing's eyes, the left protector was not much different from the 4 divine kings. Whoever was left alone would be his target. Just like that, Ji Tianqing used the spherical heaven secret technique and appeared 80,000 miles away and decisively attacked the left protector. Chapter 36-36. When Ji Tianqing appeared out of thin air and attacked from behind, the left protector was overjoyed. "Ha ha ha! I was looking for you everywhere. I didn't expect you to walk right into my trap." The left protector received a message from the 6th elder and knew that Ji Tianqing had already killed 3 god kings. Therefore, when the space behind him rippled and a dazzling sword light lit up, he didn't even need to turn around to know that Ji Tianqing had attacked. His face was filled with mockery as he sneered. He took the opportunity to use his ultimate skill and slashed his sword behind him. Hellfire explosion! The left protector roared angrily as his body swelled up. His entire body lit up with a blood-red light. He held a blood-red heavy sword that was more than 10 feet long with both hands and swung it forward. In an instant, boundless hellfire explosion surged out from the heavy sword that was as wide as a bench and covered the sky. Everything within tens of thousands of miles was lit up by the dazzling fire. With the left protector as the center, everything within tens of thousands of miles around him became the domain of hellfire explosion. The dark purple sea of fire surged as if it could burn everything in the world. Bam! 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 The dazzling golden sword light that was more than 1,000 feet long collided with the hellfire explosion that was more than 10,000 feet long. An earth-shattering boom erupted. The left protector was very confident in his ultimate skill. However, the result caused him to be filled with shock, and he revealed an expression as if he had seen a ghost. The hellfire explosion that was more than 10,000 feet long was actually shattered into pieces by the golden sword light and exploded in all directions. However, the power of the golden sword light didn't weaken much as it continued to slash toward him. Bang! The left protector frowned and shouted coldly. He held the blood-red heavy sword in front of him with both hands. The wide heavy sword that was more than 10 feet long emitted an endless amount of blood-red light that turned into a thick and solid divine light barrier. Bam! The huge golden sword and the divine light barrier collided and exploded with a dull boom. Then, both of them collapsed at the same time and exploded into millions of divine light fragments. Crack! Along with the crisp sound of the explosion, the terrifying impact sent the left protector flying backward. He tumbled high up in the sky, his face twisted and ferocious purple divine blood spurting out from his mouth and nose. Only after flying for more than 200 miles did he manage to neutralize the terrifying impact and stabilize himself. Damn it! That kid's strength is actually so strong? The left protector hurriedly circulated his martial arts to regulate his breathing and suppress the injuries of his internal organs. His face was full of fear as he let out a low cry. Previously, when the clan leader assigned him to carry out this mission, he did not tell him that this dragon clan youth's strength was so terrifying. If he had known this would happen, he would not have underestimated the enemy and brought only 3 elders with him. Before they set off, he and the other elders were still discussing and mocking the Tautai clan for being trash who couldn't even kill a young man from the dragon clan. Now, he finally understood the reason. However, he wasn't happy at all. He even regretted it. Just as these thoughts flashed through the left protector's mind, she had already lost track of Ji Tianqing in the surging hellfire sea. In the next moment, he appeared behind the left protector and brandished his sword to use his ultimate killing move. Sword of Destruction! Ji Tianqing shouted coldly. His left hand formed a sword sign and his right hand held the Burial of Heaven sword. He stabbed with all his might. He had absorbed 2 portions of the world power and released it through the amplification of his sword principle superpower. Suddenly, a dazzling golden sword that was as long as 1,000 feet engulfed the left protector's body. The left protector's eyes widened. He was filled with fear and despair. He had tried to teleport to escape and he had also thought of teleporting to dodge, but it was useless. When the golden sword radiance appeared, the area within a radius of 10,000 miles was sealed by an invisible power of the rules of nature. Even if he used all his strength, he couldn't break free from the restraint of space. He couldn't escape or dodge at all. He could only choose to block and take the blow head-on. My life is over, the left protector exclaimed in his heart. He held the blood-red sword with both hands and slashed with all his strength. Ancient sky-splitting slash. The left protector roared. The blood-red sword in his hand burned like lava and became crystal clear. It released a crescent-shaped sword radiance that was 10,000 feet long. This sword strike similarly contained his lifetime's worth of divine energy, and over 200 types of divine Tao laws. This was his trump card, one of his strongest killing moves. Kaboom! The 2 sword radiances, one golden and one red, clashed together with a loud sound that shook the sky. The blood-red sword radiance that was 10,000 feet long was cut in half by the golden sword. It shattered into dozens of pieces and scattered in the sky. Meanwhile, the golden sword of destruction didn't slow down at all. It struck the left protector again. Crack! Compared to the collision of the 2 sword radiances, this sound was insignificant. The left custodian's protective godly light, his armor, and his indestructible godly body instantly shattered like ice or mirrors. His body exploded into pieces on the spot, mixing with the purple rain of blood. Pieces of armor and robe splashed down from the sky. Only his godhead was preserved. He took advantage of the chaos to escape through the rain of blood and fled north in panic. The destruction of the god body was, of course, a terrible wound and ending. However, if he could preserve his godhead, there was still a chance for him to rise again. Therefore, the left protector didn't waste any time to threaten or care about the other 4 divine kings. There was only one word in his mind: run. Unfortunately, Ji Tianqing was able to destroy his divine body in 2 moves, so how could he possibly allow his divine core to escape? He I went to such great lengths just to obtain your godhead. If I let your godhead escape, wouldn't I have suffered a great loss? The left protector's godhead had just fled 8,000 miles when Ji Tianqing's cold laughter sounded beside it. He was instantly peerlessly terrified. His godhead trembled, and he let out a sorrowful and indignant roar. Get lost. If you kill all of us, the Chongqi tribe won't forgive you. As he roared, the left protector didn't hesitate to use 5,000 years of power and burn more than 40 types of divine Tao laws to use a forbidden divine ability. Instantly, his godhead ignited with a bloody flame, and his divine power aura increased by 5 times. His escape speed increased several times, reaching the speed of light as he fled north. Normally, when god monarchs flew, they were said to be as fast as lightning or as fast as the aurora, but that was only to describe their speed. However, the left protector's situation was different. He had truly reached the speed of light. To be honest, this speed was extremely terrifying. Even if Ji Tianqing unleashed all his power and used all his trump cards, he wouldn't be able to reach the speed of light. In the next instant, he would be left behind by the left protector, and then he wouldn't be able to catch up. See, the left protector's desire to live was so strong. He erupted with a speed that even he couldn't believe. At the same time, he had reached his limit. Although this power and speed could only last for an instant, it was enough for him to escape hundreds of thousands of miles. Chapter 36-37. The left guardian had paid a terrible price. This forbidden ability not only consumed 5,000 years of his cultivation, it also burned 40 over types of God Tao laws. The most important thing was that after casting the technique, his power would weaken until he fainted. But to be able to escape from Long Tian's evil clutches and successfully survive, it was worth it no matter what price he had to pay. That was what the left protector thought when she fled at the speed of light. However, his thoughts had yet to end when a scene that made him lose all hope appeared. The sky around the godhead had unknowingly started to distort and fold. What was more terrifying was that in the distorted sky, a dazzling white light appeared and actually formed a blazing white wall with a radius of 100,000 miles. That was a forcefully condensed space barrier using space laws. This was too much. Bam! Without a doubt, the left guardian's godhead crashed fiercely against the blazing white wall. A muffled sound exploded and reverberated through the sky. The blazing white space barrier also shook violently from his collision and exploded with intense space fluctuations. The speed of the left guardian's godhead was too fast. That was the speed of light. But he crashed against the space barrier at the speed of light. The result was obvious. Kacha. His godhead was smashed into pieces, and numerous cracks appeared on its surface. Suffering such a heavy injury, the left guardian's consciousness became hazy, and he gradually fell into a coma. Before he fell into a coma, his heart was filled with unwillingness and there was only one thought in his mind. Why did it turn out like this? He had obviously paid a huge price and sacrifice to reach the speed of light which only peak god kings could reach, so why did he still fail? The space within a radius of 100,000 miles was sealed and solidified, and even forcefully formed into a space barrier? Could it be that Long Tian's control of space laws had reached such a terrifying level? Then, the left guardian's consciousness fell into darkness and he completely fell into a coma. Swoosh! The blood-red godhead, which was full of cracks, dimmed and fell from the sky. At this moment, Ji Tianqing used the turbid heaven secret skill to move close to 100,000 miles and rushed to the side of the godhead. He waved his hand and the cracked godhead entered his hand. You're a Chongqi clan senior after all. Even if you're only in the 8th stage realm, you can't be underestimated. Luckily, I had a trick up my sleeve. You almost got away. Ji Tianqing looked at the godhead in his hand and muttered to himself. After this battle, he also clearly understood the extent of his combat strength. He should be at the peak of the 8th heaven of King God realm. God kings below the 8th level were basically insta-killed. Even an ordinary 8th stage realm god king could be easily killed. As for veteran god kings like the left protector, they possessed great heritage and many trump cards. It would take some effort to slay them. Even if he met a 9th stage realm god king, he should be able to maintain an undefeated record, right? At least he wouldn't be injured by a 9th stage realm god king like in the past. Ji Tianqing collected his thoughts and crushed the divinity of the left protector, and put it into his spatial ring. Then, he found the left protector's spatial ring and put it into the ring as well. After doing all this, he glanced at the sky in the south. With a wave of his hand, he removed the spatial barrier within a radius of 100,000 miles. His figure returned to heaven and earth, 800,000 kilometers to the south. The 6th elder, the 7th elder, the clear sky region ruler, and the vice region ruler were all rushing forward excitedly. Earlier they saw a blood ray and fire ray soaring into the sky in the northern sky. It should be the battle between the left protector and Long Tian. They rushed over as fast as they could to provide support, but they discovered something strange on the way. The location where the blood ray and sword ray appeared was actually moving towards the north. This meant that one of them was fleeing while the other was chasing after them. The 4 god kings immediately concluded that Long Tian was escaping in a sorry state, and the left protector was chasing after him. Other than this result, there was absolutely no other possibility. After all, the left protector's skills were profound and he was powerful with many tricks up his sleeves. They must hurry over and assist the left protector to kill Long Tian so that they could gain some credit. If they were late, they could only clean up the battlefield. As a result, the 4 god kings rushed over as fast as they could as they let down their guard and forgot to maintain their formation. The 4 of them had different abilities, so the speed at which they rushed over was different. 6th elder and 7th elder had the strongest abilities, so they flew at the front. The second strongest was Clear Sky Domain Master, who was 5,000 miles behind them. Deputy Clear Sky Domain Master, who was the weakest, was at the back of the group and was 8,000 miles away from Clear Sky Domain Master. After Ji Tianqing returned to heaven and earth, he transformed into a 200,000-mile world. Everything in this area was under his watch and supervision. Seeing the 4 god kings' postures and expressions, he immediately understood what was going on. Hehe. They probably think the left protector is chasing after me and want to gain some credit and benefits? He sneered in his heart and teleported 50,000 miles, appearing behind 6th elder and 7th elder out of thin air. Absolute shadows of the 10 directions. In order to end the battle quickly, Ji Tianqing shouted coldly and used his trump card. Golden light flickered all over his body as 5 figures appeared in the sky around him. They were all identical to him. The 6 heavenly dragons were all handsome and mighty. They wielded the Heaven Burier sword, but they executed different supreme sword techniques. 7-star sword, Heaven Cleaving sword, Heaven Piercing sword, Heavenly Dragon Proud Slash. The 6 Long Tians were scattered in the sky, forming an encirclement of 20,000 miles. This encirclement was neither big nor small, just enough to envelop 6th elder, 7th elder, Clear Sky Domain Master, and Deputy Domain Master. Immediately after, dozens of dazzling sword lights with supreme divine might rain down like floodwaters and drown the 4 god kings. The 4 god kings were imagining how the left protector would trample on Long Tian, and how Long Tian would be beaten up miserably. How could they guard against the sudden appearance of 6 Long Tians and the incomparably valiant attacks? This was not a sneak attack at all. It was a completely open encirclement. No, this was not the main point. Long Tian, how is he still alive? This is impossible. Wasn't he being chased by the left protector and his life was at stake? Long Tian is actually safe and sound and there are 6 of him? Our eyes must be playing tricks on us. We must be hallucinating. Could it be that the left protector has already died? When the sword lights descended, the 4 god kings were dumbfounded. They looked terrified and hopeless. The next moment, the sword lights drowned their figures. Bam! 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 Boom! 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 Kaboom! Kaboom! A wave of earth-shattering, deafening and heaven-shaking explosions resounded endlessly in the heavens and the earth. Divine light flashed. In the chaotic sky, the 4 god kings were cut into pieces on the spot. Not even their corpses were left. Their bodies were minced into pieces. Blood rained down from the sky along with fragments of divine weapons and armor. As for their godheads, They were also chopped into pieces and scattered all over the ruined land. After a short while, peace was restored. The interception plan had come to an end. Chapter 36-38. After leaving the battlefield, Ji Tianqing continued to head north. Next, he had to cross the Ganyang region and another 8 regions before reaching the northern border of the Star Source continent. At that time, he would head to the Golden Rock clan's 9 mystical paradise to pay a visit to the Golden Rock old ancestor. Swoosh! The burial of Heaven sword was still speeding through the clouds while Ji Tianqing stayed in the sword world and entered the divine pagoda to deal with the spoils of war. The battle just now sounded very long, but it actually only took a quarter of an hour. Ji Tianqing had killed 8 God King powerhouses and instantly killed 18 God Lord realm elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall. His harvest was bountiful. Those God Monarch realm elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall had nothing to say. Ji Tianqing didn't care about their godhead fragments. After all, even if he spent time refining them, he wouldn't obtain many God Dao laws and couldn't absorb much God power. There was no other way. He was already a peak 5th degree God King. Only the Godhead shards of Middle God Kings and High God Kings were effective against him. Even if it was a lower Divine King's Divine Spark fragment, the effect it could have was also limited. It was better than nothing. In the distorted space, Ji Tianqing sat cross-legged under the blood flame sacred tree and began to count the spoils of war. First was the interspatial rings of the 18 Blood Slaughter Hall elites. These experts were all elites of the Chongqi clan. Although they weren't too rich, they were still much richer than ordinary upper god kings. Ji Tianqing sorted out the cultivation resources in the 18 rings and put them all into his own interspatial ring. Roughly estimating, he obtained about 200 billion godstones worth of resources. Of course, there weren't any king-grade god artifacts or resources. Most of them were god monarch grade. Ji Tianqing put the 200 billion godstones aside for Wushuang, Bai Long, Hei Long, Qian Yu, Lin Shui, and others. Then, he began to check the interspatial rings of the 8 god kings. These god king experts were either elders of the Chongqi clan or domain lords of the Clear Sky and Ganyang regions. Basically, they were all people with great power and authority. Their wealth naturally far exceeded ordinary god kings. Ji Tianqing spent half a day to organize the 8 spatial rings. He had obtained a huge amount of cultivation resources, a large number of king-grade materials, pills, divine artifacts, and treasures. The value of these resources was hard to estimate, but a conservative estimate would put the combined wealth of the 8 godly kings at close to 2 trillion. In addition to the resources and wealth in his interspatial ring, his current wealth was close to 3 trillion. As the saying goes, a horse won't get fat without feeding at night, and a man won't get rich without a windfall. With this windfall, it's enough for me to cultivate to the high-level God King realm, and support everyone to cultivate to the God King realm. Ji Tianqing put away the interspatial ring and revealed a satisfied smile. With a large amount of king-grade treasures and resources, he could push Wushuang, White Dragon, Lin Shui, and the others to the King God realm. Moreover, these people's talents and aptitudes were originally 1 in a million geniuses. In addition, it was worth mentioning that he had obtained many king-grade materials for forging weapons, refining pills, and setting up formations from the space rings of the 8 divine kings. Fortunately, among these materials, there were herbs that he urgently needed to refine the 9-turned stellar elixir. Now, he had the Star Eater flower, 9 sets of supplementary materials, and 17 sets of herbs. He could finally start refining the 9-turned stellar elixir. However, Ji Tianqing was not in a hurry to refine the elixir. First, he meditated for a while. When his divine power and mental state had recovered, he took out the godhead fragments of the 8 godly kings. I'll refine their godheads first, then focus on refining the 9-turned stellar elixir. If I can successfully break through to the 6th level of the divine king realm, the success rate of refining the 9-turned stellar elixir should be 95%. After all, the 9-turned stellar elixir was a high-grade king-grade divine elixir. It was the rarest and most precious type. Moreover, the refining method was extremely complicated. The energy and mental energy consumed was several times more than other similar elixirs. It was difficult for an ordinary high-level god king to refine it successfully. With Ji Tianqing's current strength, he only had an 80% chance of success. As the materials were hard to find, he did not want to take the risk. He would rather raise his strength first. Swoosh! Soon he grabbed a handful of godhead fragments in each hand and used the engulfing divine power to refine them. White light appeared in his palms and formed a white light vortex. It gradually devoured the energy of the godhead fragments. Dazzling 5 colors divine light surged out of the godhead fragments and was absorbed into his body. Next, he used the power of the heaven-mending orb to refine the 5 colors divine light. When the 5 colors divine light turned into pure divine power, he would truly absorb it for his own use. It had only been 4 hours since Ji Tianqing killed the 8 godly kings. At this moment, in the star cloud city of the Chongqi tribe in the Nebula Cave, in a dazzling gray palace filled with the vicissitudes of ancient times, the guardian spirit, who was in charge of guarding the spirit temple, rushed into the main hall with a pale face. Tribe leader! Tribe leader! Something bad has happened. Stumbling into the great hall, the spirit protector cried out sorrowfully before he even saw the Chongqi clan leader. The dozen or so guards who were guarding the hall all looked at each other. They frowned at the same time and revealed doubtful expressions. In their eyes, the guardian spirit guarding the spirit temple was a very leisurely job. He basically did not show his face. Even if something happened, it had nothing to do with the spirit temple. How could the spirit protector be like this? What in the world happened? Soon, the guard captain stopped the guardian spirit and asked about the situation. What's the commotion? Be careful of your head if you disturb the Lord's cultivation. The guard captain angrily glared at the spirit protector and coldly shouted in an unfriendly tone. The guardian spirit did not have a high status and did not have any real power. No one was afraid of him. The spirit protector took a few deep breaths and said with a pale face, "Quickly take me to see the patriarch. I have an important matter to report." Haha, something important? Could it be that the sky has fallen? The guard captain sneered disapprovingly. However, he still brought the guardian spirit to the Chongqi tribe leader's study. Not long later, the guardian spirit saw the Chongqi tribe leader resting with his eyes closed in the messy and old study. The Chongqi tribe leader had a rough personality. He did not like reading, nor did he like music, chess, calligraphy, or painting. The study in the palace was just for decoration. He usually slept in the study with his eyes closed. Who knew how many precious ancient books he used as a pillow? The Chongqi tribe leader was woken up by the guardian spirit and frowned unhappily. He asked sternly, "What's made you so flustered? Has your ancestral grave been dug up?" The spirit protector took a deep breath and suppressed the panic and anxiety in his heart. After his aura stabilized, he bowed and reported in a low voice, "Patriarch, the soul spirit tablets of the left custodian, the 6th elder, the 7th elder, and the 8th elder are all broken." What? The Chongqi tribe leader's eyes widened and he jumped up from his chair. Chapter 36-39. The left guardian and the 3 elders' divine spirit tablets are all broken? Shueshang, the leader of the Chongqi clan, glared at the spirit protector and roared with a twisted face. An invisible pressure burst out from his body and enveloped half of the palace. Immediately, the spirit protector was intimidated by the powerful divine aura and fell to the ground with a plop, his body trembling uncontrollably. Even the guards around the study were shrouded by the terrifying pressure and knelt on one knee, not daring to raise their heads. Shueshang's roar was so loud that half of the palace heard it. At the same time, everyone understood what it meant for the divine spirit tablets to be broken. Every member of the Chongqi clan had a divine spirit tablet, which was kept in the spirit temple and guarded by the spirit protector. No matter where the Chongqi clan was, once they died, the corresponding divine spirit tablet would be broken. The reason for this was that the Chongqi clan's bloodline was thin, and there were only close to 10,000 of them. To the leader of the Chongqi clan, the life of every member was very important. But now the powerful left guardian and the 3 elders had died at the same time. This news was no less than a bolt from the blue. There was dead silence in the study. After a long time, Shueshang came back to his senses. He frowned and asked fiercely, "When did this happen?" The spirit protector trembled on the ground and replied with a trembling voice, "4 hours ago, bastard. Why did you only report what happened 4 hours ago now?" Shueshang roared furiously and raised his foot to kick the spirit protector. The spirit protector was kicked and rolled a dozen times. He crashed into the wall and rolled in the ruins, blood spurting out of his mouth and nose. But he didn't dare to heal himself. He quickly climbed out of the ruins and returned to Shueshang. Blood flowed out of his mouth and he replied in a hoarse voice, "Leader, please calm down, this is too shocking. I wasn't sure, so I used a spell to check several times. At the same time, there were 18 divine spirit tablets broken. All of them were elites of the blood slaughter hall." One could imagine how dumbfounded the spirit protector had been 4 hours ago when he saw the 22 spirit tablets shatter. This kind of thing had not happened for hundreds of years. It was as if there was something wrong with the spirit tablet. He was filled with fear. He didn't dare to be sure, and he didn't dare to report the news himself. He could only cast the spell over and over again, using various methods to check the spirit tablet to see if there were any mistakes. The study fell into dead silence again. Shueshang slumped into a chair with a dejected look. His face was as cold as ice, and his hands could not stop trembling. Every Cheongqi clansman's life was very important to him. It was related to the Cheongqi clan's prosperity and the hope of unifying the Star Source continent. But now 22 of them had died. Furthermore, the left protector and the 3 elders were also among them. They were the cornerstones of the Cheongqi clan, the most powerful warriors. After a long time, Shueshang waved his hand and coldly shouted, "Scram!" As if he had been granted amnesty, the spirit protector hurriedly bowed and left the study, leaving as if he was fleeing. "Damn Tao Yongsheng! Could it be that you're willing to pay such a huge price for my help? You've offended a powerful being from the Dragon Clan. Yet you've made my clan pay such a huge price. If I don't make you vomit blood this time, how can I be satisfied?" Shueshang cursed with a ferocious expression, his entire body surging with murderous intent. It was only now that he realized how powerful the powerful being from the Dragon Clan that Tao Yongsheng was chasing was. Although he really wanted to bring the right protector and a few elders to kill Long Tian personally to avenge the left protector and the rest, the Cheongqi clan had already paid such a huge price. However, the Cheongqi clan had already paid such a heavy price. He was not willing to sacrifice a few more elders. Even if he wanted to kill Long Tian to avenge the left protector and the rest, he had to consider it at length. He would not take the lead again. He had to let the powerful beings from the Taotai clan be the cannon fodder. Hence, he calmed down and thought for a long time before taking out a communication jade slip and sending a message to Tao Yongsheng. In the northwest of the Clear Sky region, 5 million miles away from the border. In a certain city, the Taotai clan leader Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and Tao Yuxing were resting in a house. Of course, godly king experts like them did not need to rest even if they had to travel continuously for 10 days. The main reason they stopped here was to wait for the other 2 elders. In the past few days, the 3 of them had been shaken off by Ji Qianxing and chased in the wrong direction. However, Tao Yongsheng had detected Ji Qianxing's location in time, and asked the 2 territorial lords and the Cheongqi clan's godly king to help kill him. Then they also changed direction and rushed towards the northwest, wanting to meet up with the powerful beings from the Cheongqi clan. At this time, the chaotic situation in the Taotai clan had already calmed down. The 2 elders were left in the star-devouring cave to lead the clan members to rebuild their homes and heal their injuries. The other 2 elders rushed to this city through the teleportation formation to meet up with them. The high priest held a teacup in his hand, but he was not in the mood to drink tea. He kept spinning the teacup and muttered to himself, "The 2 elders should arrive within 15 minutes. Previously, the clan leader had detected that Long Tian's aura was at the border of the 2 regions. If there were no accidents, the powerful beings from the Cheongqi clan and the 2 territorial lords should have already intercepted Long Tian. However, why is there no news from the Cheongqi clan? Tao Yuxing also had the same question. He held his teacup and drank tea, but his gaze drifted towards Tao Yongsheng. Tao Yongxing's expression was calm as he said calmly, "That kid's strength is not ordinary, and he is very cunning. I am only worried that the Chongqi clan's godly king and the two territorial lords will lower their guard and be careless. Don't let that kid slip away from under their noses." Tao Yuxing said worriedly, "That can't be, right? If the left guardian of the Chongqi clan can't even do this, then his ability needs to be tested." Tao Yongsheng was about to explain when a spiritual light flew from the sky and landed in front of him. The spiritual light dissipated, and a communication jade slip appeared. Tao Yongsheng hurriedly picked up the communication jade slip, and his eyes flashed. He said, "It's a message from Xue Shang." After saying that, he used his divine sense to read the message in the jade slip. The high priest and Tao Yuxing both remained silent, but they looked at him expectantly. After a while, Tao Yongxing's expression changed. His brows furrowed tightly, and his eyes became extremely serious. The high priest and Tao Yuxing both realized that something was wrong and asked in unison, "Clan leader, what's wrong?" Tao Yongsheng put down the jade slip and said with a dark expression, "The left guardian of the Chongqi clan, 3 elders, and the territorial lords and deputy territorial lords of the 2 regions, a total of 8 godly kings and 18 elites of the Bloodslaughter Hall intercepted Long Tian at the border, and both sides fought a fierce battle. However, all of them were killed by Long Tian." "What?" the high priest and Tao Yuxing exclaimed at the same time. The teacups in their hands fell to the ground and shattered. Both of them were dumbfounded, and their faces were filled with shock. Their bodies also seemed to have turned to stone. Chapter 3640. This is too frightening. This person's strength is actually so terrifying. After a long time, the high priest and Tao Yuxing came back to their senses. Their expressions were very ugly. The atmosphere was very heavy and oppressive. Although those who died were not from the Taotai clan, the 3 of them did not have the mood to gloat. They all felt great pressure. Tao Yongsheng added in a low tone, "However, that kid killed everyone and also suffered heavy injuries himself. He's fleeing with injuries." The high priest frowned and said thoughtfully, "Even so, Long Tian's strength is very terrifying. He's not even below me. Previously in the star-devouring grotto heaven, he might have been worried that we would besiege him, so he was in a hurry to escape. It's hard to imagine what kind of damage he would bring to our clan if he went all out and fought with us in the star-devouring grotto heaven." Tao Yuxing hesitated for a moment before plucking up the courage to ask, "Clan leader, high priest, then should we continue to pursue him?" Seeing the 2 turn their heads to look at him with sharp gazes, he immediately shrunk his neck and explained, "I'm not afraid. I just feel that we don't need to make any more sacrifices. Even if we intercept him and have another big battle, we can kill him to avenge our clansmen. However, we're bound to lose a few more elders. At that time, even if he dies, we'll also suffer heavy injuries. It'll be hard for us to recover for thousands of years." The high priest's sharp gaze immediately became much gentler. After thinking for a moment, he also nodded in agreement. "Clan leader, our losses are already great enough. Please reconsider." Tao Yongsheng was silent for a moment before he grinned coldly and said, "Things have already reached this point, and you want me to stop now? Our clansmen are already dead. The mine has been snatched, and the Taotai clan's face has been lost. Now you want me to give up? Ha 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 ha. Then what face does our clan have? How will we convince the masses in the future? How will we intimidate the surrounding regions?" The high priest and Tao Yuxing immediately fell silent. Tao Yongsheng continued, "The Chongqi clan also lost a protector and 3 elders. If I give up now, will Xue Shang agree? Do you want to break the alliance between the 2 clans and make Xue Shang and our clan become enemies?" The high priest was speechless. Tao Yuxing hurriedly waved his hand and apologized with a face full of shame. "This subordinate knows his mistake. Please calm down, patriarch." At this moment, in the sky not far away, 2 beams of divine light flew over from the city. Tao Yongsheng raised his head and glanced at them. He said expressionlessly, "The 2 elders have arrived. It's time for us to leave. Let's go to the battlefield at the border to check out the situation first, then meet up with Xue Shang and join forces to kill Long Tian." The high priest was stunned for a moment. He asked in disbelief, Shueshang is going to do it himself? Tao Yongsheng nodded and said expressionlessly, that's right. He wanted to avenge the dead protectors and elders. However, he added 2 conditions. Firstly, he wants to double the conditions we agreed on. Secondly, he wants Long Tian's corpse and godhood. Tao Yuxing frowned and said somewhat angrily, does that mean that Long Tian's dragon tribe bloodline belongs to Shueshang? Tao Yongsheng said in a deep voice, the dragon bloodline belongs to him. The phoenix bloodline and the golden rock bloodline belong to me. The high priest and Tao Yuxing fell silent, even though this deal was a huge loss no matter how one looked at it. However, this was something that could not be helped. For the dignity of the Taotai clan, they had to do it no matter what. The burial of heaven sword already flew continuously for an entire day, while Ji Tianxing just happened to be in close seclusion cultivation for 50 days in the distorted spacetime. The 8 divine kings' godhood fragments were all devoured and refined by him. Previously, he still thought that it required some kind of lucky chance and life-threatening danger before it could stimulate his potential and break through to the 6th-level divine king realm. He did not expect that after he refined 8 sets of godhood fragments and deprived 40 kinds of divine Tao laws, he broke through smoothly. After all, those 8 divine kings' strength was not ordinary. The quality of the godhood fragments was extremely high. Not only were there 5 middle-level divine kings, there were even 3 high-level divine kings. The most important thing was that there was a left protector with a deep foundation among them who had cultivated for over 20,000 years. He was an 8th-level realm divine king. Now, not only did Ji Tianxing reach the 6th-level divine king realm, his strength increased by more than 6 times. The divine Tao laws that he grasped also reached as many as 580. Even if he faced a 9th-level realm divine king expert again, he could also put up a fight and be more relaxed. After he ended his cultivation, Ji Tianxing opened his eyes and a gratified smile appeared on his lips. I thought that I would need the 9-turn star rhyme pill to break through to the 6th-level divine king realm. I didn't expect it to be so smooth. This is all thanks to those few divine kings, especially the left protector of the Qiongqi tribe. His power alone is comparable to that of 4 domain masters. Ji Tianxing calculated that he would save the 9-turn star rhyme pill for when he broke through to the upper-level divine king realm. After all, there was a huge bottleneck from the 6th-level divine king realm to the 7th-level divine king realm. If there was no major lucky chance, it would be very difficult to break through. According to the previous plan, Ji Tianxing would open the furnace to refine the 9-turn star rhyme pill after he finished his closed-door cultivation. However, he recalled something very important. Hence, he left the distorted spacetime and headed towards the 3rd level of the divine pagoda. Swoosh! A white light flashed and Ji Tianxing appeared in the cold and gloomy wasteland. His divine sense spread out and covered a radius of 70,000 miles. Very soon he found Baifeng. That was the center of the wasteland, and there was an oasis with a radius of 1,000 miles. There were mountains and rivers and the scenery was very pleasant. Right above the oasis, there were 9 divine pearls floating in the sky and they were shining with a dazzling golden light, illuminating the entire oasis. Whereas in the depths of the oasis, there was a majestic golden palace built on top of a lofty mountain that was 3,000 feet tall. The palace was surrounded by divine light and white clouds. There were also colorful birds and beasts. Not only were there spirit cranes, there were also various rare spirit birds. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing was slightly stunned, but he immediately understood something as a smile appeared on the corners of his lips. He flew across tens of thousands of miles in the sky and appeared outside that magnificent palace. Not long later, he saw Baifeng, who was circulating her energy to recuperate in a secret room in the palace. Did you do all this? Ji Tianxing looked at her and asked with a grin. Baifeng was a little wary and hurriedly explained, this space is too dark and desolate. It's completely unsuitable for cultivation and recuperation. Therefore, I moved a portion of the mountains, rivers, and living beings from my inner world here. Only by living in a place like this can I be at ease and cultivate. Clearly, she was worried that Ji Tianxing would reprimand her and ask her to remove the mountains, rivers, and palaces. She was really unwilling to continue sitting in the cold and gloomy wasteland. That feeling was like being imprisoned and exiled. It was too shabby. Unexpectedly, Ji Tianqing did not reprimand her. Instead, he smiled and said, "You've cultivated an inner world? I didn't expect that you've also mastered the power of faith and raised an entire world's people?" Bai Feng's expression was slightly awkward. She could only nod and did not explain further. Chapter 3641. Before Ji Tianqing ascended to the God realm, he had told the people around him that there were many god monarchs and god kings in the god realm who cultivated the power of faith. Under normal circumstances, they would cultivate their inner worlds, or use some kind of divine weapon to create a world. They would create countless living beings in that world and all of them would worship them. They would use that to gather the power of faith. This method could quickly increase one's strength without wasting a lot of time and energy. Many god monarchs and god kings favored this method. However, in the eyes of many orthodox cultivators of the divine way, this was an unorthodox method. Therefore, god monarchs and god kings who cultivated the power of faith were in the minority. However, Ji Tianqing knew that this was also a type of divine way that had been passed down since ancient times. It could not be considered an unorthodox method. Although he did not have any prejudice against this method, he did not have any intention of acknowledging it or cultivating it. Otherwise, he would have used the power of faith in the sword world long ago and created countless living beings. As for the five elements world, on the surface it seemed like billions of living beings were under his control and protection. However, in reality, he had only merged with the five elements world and did not make billions of living beings worship him. At this moment, Ji Tianqing mentioned the power of faith. Bai Feng was worried that he would reprimand, obstruct or deny it, so he hurriedly changed the topic. "Master, do you have any instructions for me?" Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, "It's not really an instruction. I just want to ask you about something." "Ask me for advice?" Bai Feng was stunned and looked at him with a strange expression. He was in disbelief. In his opinion, Ji Tianqing was almost invincible, omniscient and omnipotent. How could he ask him for advice? "Don't look at me like that. I'm not omnipotent." Ji Tianqing saw through his thoughts and explained, "What I want to ask is the divination technique you are best at. Back in the boundless heaven continent, you helped those god envoys to find my location and traces." When this matter was mentioned, Bai Feng immediately became spirited and explained excitedly, "The reason why I could find your location across a few regions is because of my divine eye of annihilation. This is the inherited talent of my race and it happens to have this effect." Of course, using the divine eyes of annihilation to track a target wasn't something that could be used casually. Only by coming into contact with the target and planting a special divine aura in the target's body could the deduction be successful. If you want me to track down a complete stranger, I won't be able to do it. After listening, Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said thoughtfully, "In that case, Tao Yongsheng was able to track my location and traces, most likely using a similar method. Previously, when I fought with him, he must have left some kind of special divine power or clue in my body. However, when I was recuperating and cultivating in seclusion, I checked many times and didn't find any trace of his divine power. Not only his divine power, but even the four divine powers of the Taotai clan were nowhere to be found." Bai Feng also frowned and after pondering over it for a moment, she spoke out in a grave tone, "Tao Yongsheng is a ninth-stage realm god king who has cultivated for over 20,000 years and the depth of his cultivation and the profoundness of his methods are far above mine. But even so, his method of tracking you should be the same as mine. No matter if he used some kind of divine ability, innate talent inheritance or some kind of god relic, he must have left some clues in your body." Speaking of this, he paused for a moment and spoke out in a solemn tone, "Lord, I feel that there's a possibility that the divine power which Tao Yongsheng left in your body might be extremely special. Not only is it extremely concealed, it doesn't belong to the Taotai clan, nor does it belong to his own power." Ji Tianqing nodded his head and said, There's this possibility. Thank you for your analysis and reminder. I'll go back and do a thorough check. We must remove the clues which he left behind as soon as possible. Otherwise, he might keep on chasing after us like a lingering spirit." Saying that, Ji Tianqing left the third-story space. Bai Feng looked at his disappearing back view in the white light and a smile appeared on her face. After some time later, he muttered to himself, "Previously I always thought that Kenshin was omniscient and omnipotent, high up in the air and could only be looked up to. I'd not expected that Kenshin would also have times when he couldn't understand. He's not much different from ordinary god kings like us. This is good. When I interact with him in the future, I won't have to be on my guard or be on my guard." Unknowingly, Bai Feng's impression of Ji Tianqing had undergone a subtle change. In the past, he'd always thought that Kenshin was high up in the air, cold and aloof. He could only be looked up to and could not be approached. However, now he realized that Kenshin was also human. There was no need to deliberately keep a distance when interacting with him. Thinking about it this way, he suddenly felt that being a guard for the sword god was not something that was unacceptable. Ji Tianqing returned to the distorted space and sat cross-legged under the blood flame sacred tree. Thinking of Bai Feng's reaction just now, the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Although I'm not good at tracking secret techniques, if Bai Feng can think of something, how can I not? In fact, he had already guessed the answer when he was cultivating in seclusion and breaking through to the 6th level of the God King realm. He had only used this as an excuse to intentionally interact with Bai Feng and let her see his flaws. He wasn't as perfect as she had imagined. This was the only way he could gradually eliminate the estrangement and wariness in Bai Feng's heart. Ji Tianqing knew very well that if he wanted to control an expert like Bai Feng, he would not be able to obtain her loyalty by merely using force and coercion. In his previous life, although he appeared cold on the surface, he was actually proficient in all kinds of controlling techniques. Otherwise, he would not have so many followers and establish such a huge force. To him, controlling Bai Feng was very easy and simple. Soon, he threw this small matter to the back of his mind and began to circulate his energy to inspect his body. Previously, when he was cultivating in seclusion, he had inspected his body many times. However, he did not find the 4 types of divine powers that the Taotai clan usually used. He also did not find Tao Yongxing's energy aura. Now that he had changed his mind, he began to inspect his body again. He did not let go of any trace of blood, flesh, tendons, bones, fingernails, or even hair on his head. As for his internal organs, sea of consciousness and Godhead, they were the focus of his inspection. Time passed quietly. A quarter of an hour, half an hour had passed. After 2 hours, he had inspected his body from inside out 10 times. He even checked every drop of blood in his body. In the end, he still did not find any abnormal energy or traces. I can confirm that there is nothing abnormal in my body. Then, where are the traces and clues that Tao Yongxing left behind? Ji Tianqing frowned and pondered for a moment. Suddenly, he thought of something and his eyes lit up. He quickly left the distorted space and flew out of the sword world. He appeared at the top of the sea of clouds. Chapter 36-42. Whoosh! It was noon and the sun was high in the sky. The Heaven Barrier sword was like a bolt of pitch-black lightning as it flew over a vast lake. Suddenly, Ji Tianqing flew out of the sword world and appeared beside it. Burial of Heaven, stop for a moment. He spoke to buried heaven through divine telekinesis voice transmission. Burial of Heaven didn't understand what was going on, so it quickly stopped and asked, "What's wrong?" Ji Tianqing reached out to hold the divine sword, glanced at the vast lake below, and landed in the lake. Whoosh! He dove into the rippling lake and dove down to the bottom of the lake, creating a temporary cave at the bottom of the lake. After using 2 formations to seal the cave, he took out the Jotian 10 Absolutes Pagoda and entered the distorted spacetime with the Burial of Heaven. After a while, he returned to the blood flame sacred tree, holding the Burial of Heaven with both hands and carefully observing it. Burial of Heaven, when I fought with Tao Yongxiang and the others that day, were you injured? Burial of Heaven realized that there was a problem, so it answered truthfully. Tao Yongxiang and the few divine kings of the Taotai clan all used king-grade high-grade divine artifacts. Although the battle was very short, I was indeed injured. However, they were all minor injuries, so I didn't tell you. In these few days I have been silently absorbing divine power to slowly heal my injuries. I should be fully recovered in a month. Ji Tianqing thought to himself as expected, and asked again then, did you feel anything strange in these few days? For example, were there any special forces or traces of the blade's injuries? This burial of heaven was silent for a long time. Then it said in a low voice, I checked it carefully, but I didn't find any special forces or traces. However, there are a total of 5 injuries on the blade. I have been trying my best to heal them, but only 4 injuries are healing. One of the injuries doesn't seem to be a big problem, and it is also very light, but there are no signs of recovery. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing vaguely guessed the answer. He hurriedly held the sword of burial of heaven and carefully examined it, looking for any damage on the blade. However, the damage to the burial of heaven was not on the surface, but on the internal structure of the divine sword. It was impossible to see with the naked eye. Therefore, Ji Tianqing could only use his God's eye secret technique to carefully examine the internal structure of the divine sword. Not long after, he found 5 damaged areas from the extremely complicated internal structure. Under the guidance of the burial of heaven, he eliminated the 4 damages and finally locked onto the unrecoverable damage. At first he couldn't tell what was wrong with the injury. However, Ji Tianqing activated his divine sense and performed his ultimate skill. Finally he found some clues. In that extremely small and negligible damage, there was actually a wisp of gray qi that seemed to be there but not there. I finally found it. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows as a glint flashed across his eyes. That wisp of gray qi was less than 1/100th the size of a strand of hair. There were no ripples of divine power, and it seemed to have no attribute. Ji Tianqing was sure that this wisp of gray qi had nothing to do with the Taotai race or Tao Yongxing's divine power. However, it was this inconspicuous wisp of gray qi that had exposed his tracks and routes to Tao Yongxing's detection. The burial of heaven also realized and said with some self-blame, no wonder Tao Yongxing could grasp our tracks. I hadn't thought that he would be so cunning. I was careless this time. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been ambushed. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and then a meaningful smile appeared on his face. He said, you don't have to blame yourself. This may not be a mistake. Maybe it is our chance. Chance? What chance? The burial of heaven stilled and instinctively asked. Ji Tianqing said with a smile, a chance to counterattack. What do you plan to do? The burial of heaven vaguely guessed his thoughts and asked. You'll know in a while. Ji Tianqing chuckled and began to cast a spell to retrieve that wisp of gray qi. At the border between the Ganyang domain and Clear Sky domain, the place where Ji Tianqing was ambushed previously had already become a wasteland with a radius of 100,000 miles. Flying across the sky, even from tens of thousands of miles away, the wasteland was still very conspicuous. At this time Tao Yongxing, the high priest, and 3 Taotai race elders were standing above the wasteland, observing with solemn expressions. There was another group of people tens of thousands of miles away. They were also circling in the sky, carefully observing the battlefield. That group of people were Chongqi race experts. There were a total of 22 people. However, the strange thing was that there were only 2 God King experts in this group. The other 20 were all upper divine lords. The 2 God Kings were naturally Chongqi race clan leader Xueshang and right protector Min Tai. The 20 upper divine lords were all wearing blood-red armor. They were naturally the elites of the blood slaughter hall. Xueshang personally went out, but he only brought the Chongqi race's 3rd strongest expert, right protector Min Tai. He did not bring an elder with him. This was because even someone as powerful as the left protector had been killed by Long Tian. It was meaningless for him to bring the elders. Instead, it would be life-threatening. The Chongqi race had already suffered heavy losses. They could not lose even one more elder. As for the elites of the blood slaughter hall, even if 20 of them died in battle, it would not be so regrettable. Both sides observed the battlefield for a while before gathering together to meet. Tao Yongxing cupped his hands at Xueshang and asked, Clan leader Xueshang, did you find any clues? Xueshang sneered and said expressionlessly, you personally fought with Long Tian. You know his strength and methods best. Why ask me? Clearly, Shueshang was very angry and blamed Tao Yongsheng for hiding the truth. Tao Yongsheng was a little embarrassed. He hurriedly changed the topic and said, "It happened not long ago. Only a day has passed. That kid is seriously injured and should not have escaped far. I'll execute the secret art right away and investigate that kid's whereabouts and position. This time we'll join hands. No matter how great that kid's ability is, he'll also die without a doubt." Although Shueshang harbored resentment towards Tao Yongsheng, but these few sentences of his, Shueshang still agreed very much. His eyes surged with a malevolent glint as he laughed coldly and said, "Hoo! The Cheongqi and Taotai 2 clan's strongest people have all moved out. For 9th stage realm divine kings joining hands, who can stop them? He's not the Dragon Emperor, so of course he'll die without a doubt. If we fail again this time and let him escape alive, you guys just slit your own throats and commit suicide." Tao Yongsheng, the high priest and the 3 Taotai race elders' expressions were rather gloomy. "Why should we commit suicide? If that kid escapes, won't you lose face?" This thought flashed across the 5 people's minds at the same time. Of course, this matter was because they had a request from the Cheongqi race, requesting the Cheongqi race to come forward and help. Therefore, this sentence could only be thought about in their hearts and could not be said out. Immediately, Tao Yongsheng took out the Chaos Primordial Bell and started invoking the art to investigate Ji Tianqing's position. Shueshang also took out a king-level upper-grade divine ship and personally steered the divine ship, bringing everyone to fly towards the north. Chapter 36-43. There were teleportation arrays between the continents and regions of the Dragon Realm. There were also teleportation arrays between the main cities of the Clear Sky region and the Ganyang region. However, the teleportation arrays between the cities and regions were heavily guarded with layers of protection. Only people of high status were qualified to use those teleportation arrays. Because of the teleportation arrays, Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and Tao Yuxing were able to make it back in time after being shaken off by Ji Tianqing. Now the experts of the 2 clans had joined forces to kill Ji Tianqing, and had to use the teleportation arrays to make it back in time. Swoosh! Shueshang drove the dark red divine warship and sped through the sky, heading straight for the main city closest to the border. There was a teleportation array in the main city that could teleport to an imperial city in the middle of the Ganyang region. Even if Ji Tianqing had been running for a day, they could still make it to the front to intercept him. In the main hall of the divine warship, Tao Yongsheng used a secret technique and quickly found Ji Tianqing's location. That guy ran really fast. He actually escaped to the Surging Sun Empire. Currently, he seems to be in the Surging Sun Lake. Tao Yongsheng sat cross-legged in the main hall. The primordial chaos bell became 1 foot tall and floated in front of him. It spun slowly and flashed with divine light. He closed his eyes and used his mind to sense Ji Tianqing's location. The right guardian of the Cheongqi clan who was guarding the main hall hurriedly reported to Shueshang when he heard the words, Surging Sun Lake. Shueshang immediately planned their route. They would first enter the main city at the border, and use the teleportation array to reach the imperial city of the Surging Sun Empire. Then they would drive the divine warship to the Surging Sun Lake, and kill Ji Tianqing on the way. After a while, Tao Yongsheng suddenly raised his eyebrows as if he had understood something. He immediately grinned coldly. That guy is in the Surging Sun Lake. Why hasn't he moved after so long? Could it be that I understand. He must have been severely injured and hid in the Surging Sun Lake to recuperate from his injuries. Haha, he can't run away now. Just wait for death. Hearing Tao Yongsheng's laughter, the high priest and the other elders looked expectant. Their eyes flashed with cold light. The distance from the border of the Ganyang region to the Surging Sun Empire's Surging Sun Lake was a total of 20 million li. Even if Shueshang personally steered the divine ship, it would still take him 20 hours to arrive. However, with the divine teleportation array and the time taken to travel, it only took them 2 hours to reach the imperial city of the Surging Sun Empire. Then Shueshang steered the divine ship and left the imperial city, rushing toward the gushing sun lake that was 300,000 miles away. Everyone knew that the heavily injured Long Tian was currently hiding in the gushing sun lake to recuperate, and had not moved for a long time. This time it was the best opportunity to kill Long Tian. When Xueshang thought about how he would soon be able to obtain the Dragon Clan's bloodline, and the high-level Divine King's dragon corpse, his heart was filled with anticipation. At the same time, the death of the left protector and the 3 elders had brought him a lot of relief. Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and the others' feelings were similar to Xueshang's. Although they could only obtain the blood of the Rock Clan and the Phoenix Clan, they could avenge their clansmen by killing Long Tian. Most importantly, the Taotai clan's face and dignity were preserved. 45 minutes later, the blood-red divine ship that was thousands of feet long and shaped like a sharp shuttle arrived in the sky above the gushing sun lake. Under the golden sun, this huge lake with a radius of close to 50,000 miles was a scene of rolling waves and sparkling waves. This place was rich in divine power and resources. So many spirit beasts and demonic beasts were hiding in the lake. However, when the divine ship arrived, it brought with it an invisible pressure that caused many spirit beasts and demonic beasts to flee in panic. Those that could not escape in time hid in caves and lairs at the bottom of the lake, trembling. They did not dare to move at all. Xueshang followed the direction Tao Yongsheng pointed and steered the divine ship toward the center of the lake. That kid is in the center of the lake. He should be hiding at the bottom of the lake. Head southeast about 20,000 miles away from us. That's right, Xueshang. You'd better conceal the aura of the divine ship so that you don't wake that kid up. Tao Yongsheng pointed the way for Xueshang while reminding him to hide. Xueshang did not think much of it and smiled confidently. Since you're sure that the kid is still in the lake, he's definitely dead. Do we need to conceal our aura? Even if he wakes up and starts to run now, he won't be able to escape from me. Ha ha ha. Tao Yongsheng laughed dryly and could not help but say, it's better to be careful. After all, that kid is very cunning. In a flash, the divine ship swept across 20,000 miles of the lake. After reaching the center of the lake, Xueshang immediately put away the divine ship. Swoosh! Swoosh swoosh swoosh! Tao Yongsheng and the 4 Taotai race god kings, Xueshang and the 21 Chongqi race experts all appeared above the lake. Everyone spread out and surround this place. Be careful. Tao Yongsheng and Xueshang ordered in unison. All of a sudden, everyone spread out and formed an encirclement with a radius of 2,000 miles above the lake. Other than the 2 clan leaders, everyone took out their divine weapons and accumulated divine power in their bodies. They looked at the lake with vigilance. Tao Yongsheng and Xueshang were empty-handed and stood above the lake calmly. The 2 looked at the calm lake under their feet and could not help but sneer. Ha ha ha. That kid still hasn't noticed that we're here. There's no reaction at all? It looks like he's seriously injured and has no time to care about anything else. While sneering, Xueshang waved his hand and sent out a dazzling divine light into the calm lake. Immediately, the lake water within a 100-mile radius was refined and disappeared into thin air. The dark red blood light formed a shield with a radius of 100 miles and a depth of 10,000 feet, separating the center of the lake from the rest of the world. Everyone could clearly see that there seemed to be a cave among several huge rocks at the bottom of the lake. Those rocks were protected by 2 divine formations, and were flickering with a faint divine light. Tao Yongsheng looked at the rocks and sneered mockingly. Long Tian, hurry up and come out to meet your death. The rolling sound waves contained a soul-shaking power that penetrated the 2 divine formations and enveloped those rocks. However, those rocks did not respond. Ji Tianqing also did not show up. Xueshang frowned and vaguely had a bad premonition. He waved his hand and sent out several dazzling blood-red sword lights. Bang bang bang. Immediately, the 2 divine formations protecting the rocks were shattered by the blood-red sword lights. Those rocks were also cut open by the sword lights and rolled to the side. A dilapidated cave was revealed. Above the rubble on the ground, there was a crystal ball the size of an egg. Inside the translucent crystal ball, a tiny wisp of gray gas could be vaguely seen. However, Ji Tianqing and the Sword of Burial of Heaven were nowhere to be seen. Seeing this scene, the expressions of Tao Yongsheng, Xueshang, and more than 20 powerhouses froze, and their faces were full of shock. The next moment, Xueshang and Tao Yongsheng reacted at the same time and could not help but exclaim, "Damn it! We've been fooled. Everyone be careful." Chapter 36-44. When they came, they were full of confidence. Who would have thought that after finding Long Tian's hiding place, they would end up empty-handed? Xueshang and Tao Yongsheng's reactions were fast and alert. While the God Kings and elites of the Bloody Slaughter Hall were still in a daze, the two of them realized that the situation was bad. Not only did they realize that they had been tricked, but they also guessed that this was very likely a trap set by Long Tian. Even though the possibility of the heavily injured Long Tian setting up an ambush for so many experts was not high, unless Long Tian was tired of living and wanted to die. However, Xueshang and Tao Yongsheng were very cautious and did not rule out this possibility. After all, with Long Tian's daring character, nothing was impossible. As Xueshang and Tao Yongsheng's exclamations sounded, the God Kings and elites of the Bloody Slaughter Hall came to their senses and hurriedly retreated. Everyone's attention was still focused on the rocks and the crystal ball. In their predictions, if Long Tian had set up an ambush here, the key would definitely be the crystal ball. Not only did the God Kings and elites of the Bloody Slaughter Hall think so, but even Xueshang thought so. Only Tao Yongsheng was different. He stared at the crystal ball for a while and frowned. He cursed in his heart and quickly moved his gaze away to look around. Damn it! The formless primal chaos chi that I left in his sword was actually removed by him? That formless chaotic energy was hidden very well. How could he have discovered it? Without a doubt, that wisp of gray energy was the mark he left in the burial of heaven, when he used the primordial chaos bell to fight with Ji Tianqing. With this mark, he was able to track Ji Tianqing's position and escape route and find this place. Now, the formless chaotic energy had been removed and Ji Tianqing had disappeared. Whether or not Ji Tianqing had set up an ambush, his plan to kill him had failed. However, this matter was not over yet. Just as everyone was on high alert, the surface of the lake in all directions suddenly lit up with divine light that soared into the sky. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Tens of thousands of starry sword lights soared into the sky from the bottom of the lake, instantly forming a silver light shield with a radius of 10,000 miles, sealing off this area. The heaven-destroying sword formation formed by 40,000 starry giant swords was formed. The sword formation was activated, releasing a formless pressure and sharp sword chi that pressed down from the sky. Immediately, the expressions of the experts above the lake changed. Their eyes were filled with anger and worry. Damn it! That brat really set up an ambush here. Everyone, don't panic. We have so many people and we even have 2 clan leaders. What are we afraid of? It's fine if that brat ran away, but I didn't expect that he would dare to set up an ambush for us. He's dead for sure. Haha, he's too arrogant and conceited. He's courting death. After the initial panic, the experts of the 2 clans quickly calmed down. Seeing Tao Yongsheng and Xueshang remain calm, the masters of the 2 clans regained their confidence. In their minds, with 4 ninth-stage realm God Kings present, what was there to be afraid of? Other than peak God Kings, no one could defeat those 4 experts. At this moment, Tao Yongsheng and Xueshang stood above the lake with arrogant expressions. They looked up at the huge heaven-destroying sword formation and opened their mouths to speak. Long Tian, you can actually see through the formless chaos chi that this seed is hiding. This seed indeed has a whole new level of respect for you. But unfortunately, you've overestimated your own ability. If you run away now, you can still save your life. But you actually still want to counterattack. That's too laughable. Tao Yongsheng's face hung a cold smile as he shouted loudly like a bell. Xueshang's face was gloomy and his tone was cold as he shouted angrily, "Little beast, are you intending to keep hiding in the dark like a coward? Come out and accept your death. This seed is going to avenge the dead clansmen today." As the billowing voice spread across the sky, the 2 of them gave off a sacred majesty, causing the God Kings and Sir Gods of the 2 clans to be filled with confidence and anticipation. Following that, in the empty sky, a white figure appeared out of thin air. Swoosh! That was a youth from the Dragon Clan who was dressed in a white robe and covered with golden dragon scales. He was handsome and had an imposing appearance. That was Ji Tianqing. He was also within the Heaven Punishment Sword formation. Standing high in the sky, he looked down at everyone from above. Tao Yongsheng, wasn't the lesson that I taught you previously painful enough? For the sake of the Taotai clan's reputation, you sacrificed the lives of all the elders. Do you think it's worth it? For the sake of illusory dignity, you let the clansmen go to their deaths dauntlessly? Or do you decisively stop the pursuit and cut your losses in time? I hope that you can consider it carefully. After all, there is no real deep hatred between us. It's all because you are too greedy. Ji Tianqing looked down at Tao Yongsheng expressionlessly and said coldly. The Grand Priest and Tao Yuxing had previously discussed this issue and had suggested it to Tao Yongsheng. But Tao Yongsheng had rejected it. Now, in front of the experts of the two clans, Ji Tianqing had said this. Even if Tao Yongsheng had wavered and thought of giving up the pursuit, it was impossible for him to consider it again. He didn't even hesitate at all. He was very confident and overbearing as he shouted angrily, "What a joke! You will definitely die today." I'm about to turn your bones into ashes, and you still dare to spout nonsense here? Why didn't you think of reconciliation when you massacred my clansmen? Now that you are in a desperate situation, you want to beg me for reconciliation? Wishful thinking. I will definitely kill you today, and I will tear you into pieces. As soon as Tao Yongsheng's voice fell, Xueshang turned to look at him and said expressionlessly, I said that his body and godhead are mine. If Tao Yongsheng tore Long Tian's body into pieces and turned his bones into ashes, then how could he refine the Dragon Clan's bloodline? Tao Yongsheng knew that he had misspoken and hurriedly explained, I just said it casually. Since we have an agreement, of course I will leave his corpse intact. High in the sky, Ji Tianqing retracted his gaze and no longer paid attention to Tao Yongsheng. In fact, he had long expected that Tao Yongsheng would have such a reaction, and he was only giving Tao Yongsheng one last chance before he started the massacre. Then he looked at Xueshang and said expressionlessly, Xueshang, this is a grudge between me and the Taotai clan. It has nothing to do with the Cheongqi clan. If you are smart enough, it's best to take your people and leave. Otherwise, not only will you not get any benefits, but you will also sink deeper and deeper. Unfortunately, before he could finish speaking, Xueshang sneered disdainfully and interrupted him. Ha ha ha. How laughable and pitiful. Long Tian, is this how you admit defeat and beg to surrender? If you obediently lay down your arms and surrender, kowtow to me and admit your wrongdoings, perhaps I will grant you a quick death. As soon as Xueshang's voice fell, the powerhouses of the two clans laughed loudly. They looked at Ji Tianqing with eyes full of contempt and ridicule. Ji Tianqing still looked indifferent and said calmly, I have said what I should say. Since you insist on seeking death, then I will grant you your wish. Chapter 3645. After Ji Tianqing finished speaking, he started to control the heaven-destroying sword formation with both hands. The heaven-destroying sword formation in the surging sun lake was different from the one he usually used with the burial of heaven's sword. Normally, he would use the sword rain to summon tens of thousands of starry giant swords to kill the target first. Then, the tens of thousands of starry giant swords would form a sword formation. This kind of sword formation was very rare in the God realm and Dragon realm. Only a few peak divine kings could do it. In addition, the power of the heaven-destroying sword formation was extraordinary. Therefore, Ji Tianqing could usually kill strong enemies with this move. But it was different this time. He calculated that the Taotai and Cheongqi's elites would arrive. If he used the heaven-destroying sword formation at the last minute, it would not be powerful enough. Therefore, he spent a few hours to bury 99 divine swords in the surging sun lake in advance. He used the 99 divine swords as the foundation and used a large amount of divine power, god stones, and materials to set up the heaven-destroying sword formation. In this way, the power of this heaven-destroying sword formation was about 5 times stronger than the heaven-destroying sword formation he usually used. It was even stronger than the one he used at the Starry Cliff with the help of the extraterritorial stars. Such a powerful heaven-destroying sword formation was enough to kill everyone except Xueshang, Tao Yongsheng, the High Priest, and the Right Guardian. Time was very tight. Ji Tianqing had just finished setting up the heaven-destroying sword formation, and was about to finish the work to hide the sword formation more perfectly. But his divine senses detected that the elites of the two clans had arrived on the divine ship. Therefore, he could only hide and wait for the elites of the two clans to step into the trap. He was still worried that Tao Yongsheng and Xueshang were too cautious and would not easily fall into the trap. He did not expect that his worry was unnecessary. Tao Yongsheng, Xueshang, and the rest had absolute confidence and did not take him seriously at all. Therefore, his counterattack plan was unusually successful. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As Ji Tianqing cast spells with both hands, the heaven-destroying sword formation within a radius of 10,000 miles immediately sped up. The sword formation burst forth with dazzling divine light, releasing an even more powerful pressure and sword chi. Under his control, 20,000 starry giant swords maintained the seal while the other 20,000 giant swords flew back and forth between heaven and earth, attacking the experts of the two clans. Swish! Swish! In an instant, dozens of sword blade storms, sword light vortexes, and sword rain poured down from the sky and were about to drown everyone. Everyone felt a great pressure and a strong sense of impending death. Their expressions immediately became much more serious. Especially the 3 elders of the Taotai clan and the 20 elites of the Bloodbath Hall. They seemed as if they were facing a great enemy, and dense worry surged out from their eyes. They didn't have the confidence to block the sword light that blotted out the sky. Tao Yongsheng did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly took out the primordial chaos bell and suspended it above his head. Furthermore, he shouted in a solemn tone, "Everyone be careful. This sword formation is extraordinarily powerful. We must not be careless." He had witnessed the power of the heaven-destroying sword formation when he was at the Starry Cliff in the star-devouring Grotto Heaven. At that time, if it wasn't for the protection of the primordial chaos bell, the elders would have been seriously injured even if they didn't die. Even he himself might not have been able to escape unscathed. The Grand Priest, Tao Yuxing, and the 2 elders of the Taotai clan did not need his reminder. They were extremely cautious as they went all out to deal with the sword light that blotted out the sky. As for Xueshang and the Right Guardian, they were not too vigilant. Humph! It's just a sword formation that looks extravagant. What's there to be afraid of? He only has a few hours at most to set up this sword formation. How powerful can it be? Xueshang snorted disdainfully as he looked at the sword light vortexes that descended from the sky. He charged forward bravely and swung his fists to throw out 2 fist shadows that were the size of mountains. He wanted to destroy the sword light vortexes in front of everyone without using any divine weapons. In this way, he could not only display his bravery and the strength of the Cheongqi clan, but he could also fiercely intimidate Ji Tianqing. The Right Guardian and the 20 elites of the Bloodbath Hall saw the Taotai clan's supreme gods in a defensive posture, as if they were facing a great enemy. Their clan leader charged forward bravely. Instantly, they felt their blood boiling as pride and anticipation welled up in their hearts. If they were not fighting a great battle, they would definitely take the opportunity to mock the Taotai clan's supreme gods. Haha, look at how timid you are. What a bunch of cowards. Look at how valiant our clan leader is. Just as this thought flashed through everyone's minds, Xueshang had already collided with the sword light vortexes. Boom! Crack! Amidst the deafening loud noise, the 2 fist shadows that Xueshang threw out smashed the sword light vortexes. Even though the 2 fist shadows were also smashed and turned into divine light fragments that scattered in all directions. However, the sword light vortexes being destroyed by Xueshang in one move still greatly boosted the Cheongqi clan's morale. Looking at the Taotai clan again, they actually hid around Tao Yongsheng. Meanwhile, Tao Yongsheng cast a spell to activate the primordial chaos bell, causing it to expand to a radius of 100,000 feet. It was like a huge shield that protected him and the Taotai clan's elders. Bam! 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 7 sword light vortexes and sword rain came down one after another, but they were all blocked by the primordial chaos bell. Everyone was unharmed. Even though they were unharmed, they all lowered their heads and felt ashamed. Their old faces were burning. After all, the Cheongchi clan's right guardian and the elites of the blood slaughter hall were looking at them with cold smiles and disdain. Even if they didn't say anything, the Taotai clan's people felt very embarrassed. The high priest hesitated and sent a voice transmission to Tao Yongsheng. Clan leader, we can't hide in the primordial chaos bell. We will be laughed at by the Cheongchi clan. Anyway, you and I don't fear the power of this sword formation. Why don't the two of us kill Long Tian? Use this primordial chaos bell to protect the 3 elders. Tao Yongsheng thought for a moment and nodded. All right, then we will do as you say. Then he handed the primordial chaos bell to Tao Yuxing to control. He and the high priest both took out their divine weapons and charged out of the primordial chaos bell bravely but cautiously, attacking Ji Tianxing high in the sky. Bam! 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 Countless starry swords, sword light vortexes, and storms kept attacking the primordial chaos bell, but to no avail. The 3 elders of the Taotai clan stayed in the range of the primordial chaos bell and felt very safe. However, it was still embarrassing for them to hide under the primordial chaos bell, while the others were fighting bravely. The 3 of them discussed in secret. When the power of the sword formation weakened, they would also charge out and fight Ji Tianxing for a few hundred rounds. Only in this way would they not let today's battle become a disgrace to them. On the other side, Shueshang and the Right Guardian relied on their strength to charge wildly in the sky and destroy one ball of sword light after another. They locked onto Ji Tianxing's aura and charged left and right in the sword rain, trying to get close to Ji Tianxing. However, the 20 elites of the blood slaughter hall suffered a calamity and were quickly annihilated. Chapter 36-46. The Right Guardian had given the elites of the Hall of Bloody Slaughter a king high-grade divine artifact to save their lives. It was an old and shabby 10,000 demon banner. It released a thick blood-red light that formed a light shield to protect everyone. However, the 10,000 demon banner needed divine power to unleash its power. The 20 elites of the Hall of Bloody Slaughter hid in the blood-red light shield. They focused on unleashing the 10,000 demon banner to maintain the blood-red light shield. Unfortunately, their strength was too weak. The blood-red light shield withstood the attacks of the 10,000 swords. In the blink of an eye, it was full of cracks. It was on the verge of shattering. The elites of the Hall of Bloody Slaughter were so scared that their faces turned pale. They unleashed their divine power to control the 10,000 demon banner to repair the cracks on the shield. Unfortunately, the 10,000 demon banner was the Right Guardian's natal divine artifact. They rarely touched it or used it. They only knew the basic control chance of the 10,000 demon banner. They couldn't unleash the power of the 10,000 demon banner, nor could they perform profound and high-end operations. Therefore, they soon met with a tragedy. Kaboom! Crack, crack, crack. When the rain of swords came again, the blood-red light shield that was full of cracks couldn't withstand it anymore. It was smashed into pieces and fell apart. Countless blood-red fragments of divine light splashed in all directions. The 20 elites of the Hall of Bloody Slaughter were also drowned by the rain of swords. They let out heart-wrenching cries of despair. Almost every elite of the Hall of Bloody Slaughter was hit by dozens of giant swords. Their bodies were blasted into smithereens, and their godheads were also shattered into dregs. They were truly annihilated. In the blink of an eye, the 20 elites of the blood slaughter hall were all dead. Not a single one was spared. Their cries were still echoing in the sky, but they were soon drowned out by the deafening explosions. High up in the sky, the 4LV9 Divine King Realm experts broke through all the obstacles and destroyed dozens of sword-light whirlpools and storms. Finally, they surrounded Ji Tianxing. Even though Ji Tianxing dashed left and right, fleeing at top speed and even using his teleportation divine ability, Ji Tianxing still couldn't escape. However, his strength was somewhat weak and he seemed to be lacking in strength. Soon he was heavily surrounded. Shueshang, the Right Guardian, Tao Yongsheng, and the High Priest stood in 4 different directions, staring at him with murderous eyes. They grinned cruelly. I've already said this long ago. What bullshit sword formation? It's all flashy stuff. In front of absolute strength, these are all jokes. Xueshang sneered with a ferocious face. His hands returned to the original shape of the Qiong cheese claws, sparkling with a cold light. Tao Yongsheng also grinned coldly and said in a mocking tone, Long Tian, you are indeed heavily injured and weak. Don't you have a few guards around you? Why didn't you call them to protect you? This is your last chance. If you don't make them show themselves, you will die. Actually, he was somewhat anxious when he didn't see Bai Feng, Chao Qingyu, Yank and Peng Fei. He knew that these guards must be in Ji Tianqing's personal divine artifact. If he killed Ji Tianqing like this, then Ji Tianqing's corpse, godhead, and divine artifact would all belong to Xueshang. He wouldn't be able to get any benefits. Previously, he had already discussed the terms with Xueshang. Other than Ji Tianqing's corpse, godhead, and equipment, everything else would belong to him. In that case, he could at least get the Phoenix bloodline and the Golden Rock bloodline to comfort himself. Ji Tianqing, who was surrounded by 4 people, was obviously weak, but he still pretended to be calm. This sword formation is enough to deal with you. I don't need any guards at all. After saying that, he waved the Burial of Heaven sword and slashed out a dazzling sword light toward the weakest high priest in an attempt to break out of the encirclement. The high priest was used as a breakthrough point and he was quite angry. Originally, he would avoid the attack and cast a spell to stop Ji Tianqing. For the sake of his dignity and face, he chose to fight head-on and not give an inch. Invincible blood slash. The high priest roared angrily and waved the blood-red divine sword with both hands, splashing out a sky full of sword shadows to attack. Bam! 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 The blood-red sword light collided with the sky full of sword light, and there was a deafening explosion. Suddenly, the sword light and the sword light collapsed at the same time, exploding into fragments of divine light. The violent impact and the dozens of starry giant swords that took the opportunity to attack fiercely sent the high priest flying. Puff, while he was still flying in the air. His face was distorted and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Although the high priest's injuries were not serious and did not affect his ability to continue fighting, he was sent flying. Ji Tianqing took the opportunity to rush out of the encirclement and escape the heaven-destroying sword formation. This sword formation was set up by him, so he could enter and leave at will. Xueshang, Tao Yongsheng and the others could not. Once he left the heaven-destroying sword formation, if they wanted to chase after him, they would have to cast a spell to break the sword formation. In that case, it would take at least 2 hours. Where could they find him? This thought flashed through the minds of Xueshang, Tao Yongsheng, and the Right Guardian at the same time, and they became anxious. Stop him, we can't let him escape. We can't let him escape from the sword formation. Otherwise, it will be difficult for us to catch up with him. Don't hold back anymore, don't fail miserably. The 3 of them roared at the same time and exploded with their fastest speed. They used their ultimate killer moves and attacked Ji Tianqing at the same time. Death Sword of Heavenly Sun. Million Slaughter of Blood Sea. 9 Heavens Dark Sky Attack. Along with the 3 people's angry roars, 3 extremely powerful secret techniques shone with a divine light that was even more dazzling than the scorching sun, engulfing Ji Tianqing's figure. Boom! 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 In the sky full of sword light and blood light, Ji Tianqing was hit by the 3 divine powers and the protective divine light shattered on the spot. Then, the armor that he was wearing shattered into pieces and countless pieces fell to the ground. Then, his body exploded with a bang and turned into charred pieces that filled the sky and splashed out in all directions. The pitch-black pieces mixed with the divine light in chi waves and swiftly swept across thousands of miles, filling the entire heaven punishment sword formation. In the blink of an eye, the sky regained its clarity. Xueshang, Tao Yongsheng, the high priest, and the Right Guardian all looked at the sky in shock. It was empty in front of everyone. Ji Tianqing no longer existed. The 4 of them had complicated expressions and they were all stunned. It's over just like that? He's killed just like that? That's not right. Even if he's seriously injured and his power is greatly reduced, he shouldn't be so weak, right? Everyone, don't think too much. Although he killed several upper-level God Kings earlier, he's not a peak God King and he's seriously injured. We're all 9th stage realm God Kings, so it's natural for us to join forces and kill him. Hearing the Right Guardian's analysis, everyone felt that it made sense. But when Xue Shang regained his senses, he was filled with rage as he roared with a black face, "Bastard! Tao Yongsheng! You despicable villain! You blasted him into dregs, crushed his bones and scattered his ashes. Where will this seat go to find the Dragon Clan's bloodline?" Tao Yongsheng's expression stiffened and was about to explain. Suddenly, the High Priest and Right Guardian's bodies stiffened and without any warning, they opened their mouths and spat out a large mouthful of foul blood. The two of them seemed to have understood something and instantly opened their eyes wide, revealing an intense horror. "Wrong. This Long Tian is fake. There's a trap in here, we've fallen into a trap again." The two of them cried out in shock at the same time as their bodies started to tremble. Their faces also turned pale as bean-sized beads of sweat appeared on their foreheads. Seeing their reaction, Xue Shang and Tao Yongsheng were filled with vigilance as they hurriedly asked, "What's going on? Why did the two of you?" Without waiting for the High Priest and Right Guardian to answer, Xue Shang's body also trembled and suddenly his vision turned black. He only felt the god power in his body surging violently. His god blood was almost burning and his consciousness also became blurry. "There's poison!" he subconsciously shouted. Chapter 36-47. The High Priest and Right Guardian were slightly weaker than Xue Shang and Tao Yongsheng, especially the High Priest, who had been injured when Long Tian broke out of the encirclement. As a result, he was the first to be poisoned and also the most severely. His vision had turned black, and his body was trembling. His divine blood was burning, and his body was about to explode. He had no choice but to sit cross-legged in the sky and protect himself with his divine sword. He quickly used his power to suppress his injuries. The Right Guardian's situation was not much better. He only felt that his divine power was chaotic, his divine blood was boiling, and he was about to explode. He could not speak, so he closed his eyes and quickly used his power to heal his injuries. Although Xue Shang and Tao Yongsheng were poisoned, they were not injured and were less affected by the strong poison. The two of them used their profound power to suppress the violent divine power and divine blood, and tried their best to keep their minds clear. "It is indeed poisonous. The Long Tian that we killed just now was also fake. I understand now. The fake Long Tian just now should have been formed by some kind of divine weapon or superpower, and it contained strong poison. We smashed it into pieces, and the strong poison took the opportunity to spread. We were not prepared and were invaded by the strong poison." Xue Shang and Tao Yongsheng discussed and quickly guessed the source of the strong poison. In fact, they guessed right. But the problem now was, what kind of poison were they poisoned with? Damn it, what kind of poison is this? It is invisible and colorless, and there is no abnormality at all. Damn beast, you only know how to use such sinister and despicable methods. Xue Shang and Tao Yongsheng were full of anger. They secretly used their power to check their divine bodies several times, but they could not find where the strong poison was, let alone what kind of poison it was. But their symptoms were that they were poisoned. If we don't know what kind of poison it is, we can't neutralize it and get rid of it. Don't worry so much. Let's first protect everyone out of the sword formation, then think of a way to neutralize the strong poison. Xue Shang and Tao Yongsheng quickly reached a consensus and decided to escort everyone out of the Heaven Punishment sword formation. The High Priest and Right Guardian's situation finally stabilized, and the two of them used their power to temporarily suppress their injuries. With Xue Shang and Tao Yongsheng by their side to help them block countless sword radiances, they were in a relatively safe situation. However, when they turned their heads to look down and saw the situation clearly, their expressions immediately changed. The 20 blood slaughter hall elites of the Chongqi clan had long been killed by the sword light. The 3 elders of the Taotai clan were also in a tragic state. They were on the verge of death. Previously, They had been hiding in the barrier of the Bell of Chaos and could barely resist the sword light. However, when they saw Long Tian being besieged by 4 powerhouses and had no choice but to flee, they felt that the opportunity to perform had arrived. We can't keep hiding in the Bell of Chaos. This will become our humiliation. We have to make a move at the right time to help the Patriarch and the others attack Long Tian. Only then can we wash away our humiliation. This was a joint decision made by the 3 elders. Therefore, they decisively left the Chaos Bell's barrier and bravely brandished their sabers and swords. They passed through the blockade of the sword beams that filled the sky and charged at Long Tian, who was fleeing in a sorry state. Unfortunately, before they could even get close to Long Tian was killed by the joint forces of the 4 experts. The 3 elders felt that it was a pity that they had yet to display their bravery. However, this was also good. If they killed Long Tian earlier, this matter would be over. However, what the 3 elders did not expect was that Long Tian was blasted into pieces that filled the sky. They spread in all directions with the violent shockwave. The dazzling shockwave of divine light swept over with a large amount of pitch-black debris. When the 3 elders broke through the sword rain that filled the sky, they had all suffered some injuries, light or heavy. When the colorful shockwave attacked, the 3 of them could not dodge. They were all sent flying and spat out blood. At that moment they had fallen 50 kilometers away. They were all covered in blood and looked miserable. They had thought that the matter was over. Even if they were seriously injured, it was not bad to be able to preserve their lives. They could heal their injuries after leaving the sword formation. Unexpectedly, the 3 of them were invaded by the poison. Soon their divine bodies swelled, their divine blood burned, and their divine power became chaotic. The 3 of them burned with dark red blood flames. Their divine bodies swelled and twisted wantonly like monsters. Their internal organs were shattered. Their divine blood, meridians, and bone marrow were burned to ashes, bringing them extreme heart-wrenching pain. Ah! The 3 of them let out shrill screams. They struggled madly in the sky, rolling and rolling to lessen the pain. Unfortunately, it was all in vain. The invisible poison not only invaded their divine bodies, it even invaded their consciousness and tainted their divinities. Soon the 3 elders fell into a coma. Their divine bodies were burned to pieces, and black ashes scattered all over the sky. High in the sky, Tao Yongsheng and Shueshang saw this scene with their own eyes. They were both shocked and angry, especially Tao Yongsheng. He was so angry that his eyes were about to pop out. He roared and rushed over. Swoosh! He rushed to the 3 elders' side, trying to cast a spell to suppress their injuries and save their lives. Even if he could not save their bodies, he had to save their divinities. Otherwise, if the 3 elders died here, the Tao Tai clan would suffer an unprecedented loss. However, Tao Yongsheng tried several methods, but he could not suppress the 3 elders' injuries. There were thousands of starry giant swords in all directions, continuously stabbing at him. He not only had to use his power to suppress his injuries, but he also had to resist the strangulation of the giant swords. He also had to cast a spell to save the 3 elders. No matter how strong he was powerless at this moment. There was nothing he could do to save the situation. Shueshang, are you standing there and watching the show? Quickly come and help. Tao Yongsheng, who was anxious, angry, and helpless, really could not save the 3 elders. He roared at Shueshang, who was above his head. Shueshang also felt wronged. His face immediately darkened. He pointed at the high priest and right guardian behind him and shouted angrily at Tao Yongsheng, "If I go and help you, what about them? Will they be killed by the thousands of swords?" Indeed, the high priest and right guardian had been invaded by the poison, and had been using their power to suppress their injuries. At this moment they were at their weakest and had no power to protect themselves at all. Relying on their divine weapons alone, they could not block the attacks of the thousands of swords. If it were not for Shueshang casting a spell to help them block most of the sword light, the 2 of them would have been strangled to pieces by the sword light. Tao Yongsheng suddenly lost his temper. He also knew that Shueshang could not free himself to help. "Ah, Long Tian, you damned beast bastard! Don't let me catch you. I will definitely make you pay with your blood 10 times. Tao Yongsheng, who was about to go crazy, roared hysterically, looking up to the sky and cursing. Before meeting Long Tian, he was the lofty and awe-inspiring Taotai clan leader. He could call the wind and summon the rain. He was omnipotent. No one dared to disobey his will. But now, for the first time, he experienced the emotions of weakness, helplessness, anger, and helplessness. Book Guest House Reading Website. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.